Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to the Games Done Quick stream. Glad to have you all here. I am Darkman78. With me here is the lovely and fabulous Spikevegeta.
Oh, I'm lovely? Oh, thank you. I didn't know we were going to start off with compliments. You're beautiful yourself. Thank you, dude.
Oh, thank you. So what we have here is another edition of the Hotfix, and this is a special one. So, a lot of times after GDQs, people, they watch speedrunning and they think it's awesome. They're like, I want to get involved. Or, they think, oh, this is impossible. I can't get involved. We're here to tell you that it's really not that impossible. So we have a couple of things to show you, kind of like a speedrunning 101 panel, if you will. So we're going to have a PowerPoint kind of explaining some things, what's going on, what to expect when speedrunning, how to get involved, what to look out for. And then afterwards, Spike here is going to do a few trick demonstrations and a special surprise for you at the end. So stick around. It's going to be pretty cool. So yeah, let's, without further ado, let's get into it. Speedrunning 101, a primer by Spikevegeta and Darkman78. That's us.
Dude, I got top billing. Sick. Thank you.
All right, so let's go into a quick intro on speedrunning. It is one word.
Please get that right. There is one lesson I want you all to take from today. Speedrunning is one word. You'll get so much crap for it. Keep that.
So what is speedrunning? Quite simply, you're trying to beat a video game as fast as possible under the restrictions of a particular category of the game. So it's not that hard. You're just trying to go fast. There may be certain restrictions on what you can and can't do in your speedrun, but other than that, you're just trying to go fast. So that's it.
Yeah, best not to overcomplicate things. Now, a little more complicated is what do I need to do to get into speedrunning? Games Done Quick. We've raised millions of dollars over the years for different charities such as PCF and MSF. But one of the other great things that GDQs have done is introduce people into speedrunning. So I hope we have a whole new wave of you guys in chat today who want to learn about it, how to get into it. We're going to take you through a lot of different steps for you guys to get into it, including the terminology, the technology, different pieces like capture cards and stuff that you're going to need. Finding your specific game community, because there's tons of them out there these days. Any problems and concerns you guys might have, how to actually learn your game, good practice tips and stuff like that, and finishing up with some resources for you guys.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We're going to start off with some terminology, kind of have to know the terms before you can kind of get into it. So I'm going to start off first, a couple of things here. So first thing, you hear this like all the time on GDQ streams, right? You see frames and frame perfect. So what are frames and frame perfect? So think of a video game as right? It's like, so when you think of a movie, right? You think of like a standstill picture, and it's thousands, millions of pictures going back and forth, all right? So a frame in video game terminology is there, so if you hear like 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second, that's like one still image that's being shown, and then you have that many images being shown in a second. So if it's 60 frames per second, you have 60 frames per second, 60 images being shown per second. So when you talk about then in the context of what is frame perfect, so that means literally if the game is running at say 60 frames per second, you have 1/60th of a second in order to pull off a maneuver, or 1/30th of a second, depending on how many frames it runs at. So I know that's something that people talk about a lot. So hopefully people understand that terminology now.
And one thing to understand, there's, every game's different. Some will have 60 FPS, others will run at 30 FPS, so you get 1/30th of a second. Some, if you run Nintendo 64 games, a lot of times those will be 20 frames per second. So it's different in every case. Don't get overly scared of what a frame perfect trick is. There aren't as many of them out there as you would think, as much as we say it. You've also got, in addition to when people say frame perfect, you might hear people also say pixels, pixel perfect. And that is more so just having to do with your positioning on the screen. Just every little movement forward by a character, if you can find how to make it pixel perfect, every position they move forward, that is a pixel in itself. So you'll hear some people talk about tricks will say, this is frame perfect and pixel perfect. If people are memeing to you, it'll be sub-pixel perfect, sub-frame perfect. But yeah, pixels are another thing people will establish, that it's only on this one specific pixel that, or these 2 or 3 specific pixels, that a trick might work.
Yeah. Moving on, so we're kind of getting to the meat and potatoes of speedruns. You hear glitches. So glitches basically, in simple terms, it's anything that a developer did not expect to happen. When you see somebody perform a trick, or you see somebody, get to a certain section ahead of time, or maybe it's, they zipped up through a wall, which we'll talk about in a second. That's a glitch. It encompasses a whole slew of things. So whenever you hear somebody talking about a glitch, it's simply something that was never intended to happen.
Yeah, it is hard inherently, I think, in our community to define what exactly is a glitch. You'll see different categories out there that will say, we're going to do Ocarina of Time glitchless. And it's simply whatever you determine is a glitch. But for the most part, like Darkman said, it is going to be broken up by what is developer intended in a way. One of those such glitches that you can utilize in a game will be zips. Zips can come from all sorts of different areas, like why they work, but the basic idea of what it is you put yourself in an area you're not supposed to be, such as in a wall or a ceiling, and you're finding a way to zip yourself across very quickly, usually, across an entire area. You'll be seeing it later in one of our tutorials, but usually it's put up as a safety precaution by devs to say, well, we got them in an area where they're stuck. We need to find a way to eject them from it. And then abusing that to be able to then zip across an entire area very quickly you were not supposed to.
Yeah. I know some of you there watching my Strider tutorial may have seen a zip in action, so that is definitely an example. But like Spike said, we are going to show you a zip later on, so look forward to it. Another popular terminology is wrong warp. So wrong warp is basically anything that you do to, essentially teleport yourself to a certain section, but you're teleporting yourself to a section that the developer never intended for you to do. One of the famous examples is Ocarina of Time. People would beat the first dungeon, and then they would kill Goma, and then you kill the spider. It's like, okay, let's move on. Take the warp. Let's get out of here. But if they were to do certain things, a variety of things in a perfect and sequential order, you end up taking that warp and not transferring you out of the dungeon. It ends up taking you to Ganon's castle. So that is a really good example of a wrong warp.
Just getting to skip the middle 98% of the video game, So.
Yeah. So this is kind of like almost like the holy grail of speedrunning, if you will, because a wrong warp generally is saving you an enormous amount of time.
On a more simple term, we've got, you're going to see this, and this doesn't just relate to glitches. We got sequence breaking here. And when people say that, it's, if you think of any video game, like an Ocarina of Time, you think of it as like this long, imagine like a puzzle. Well, now in speedrunning, kind of the great thing you get to do is take someone else's work, the developer's work of Ocarina of Time, and now you're almost going to take it out of order and put it back as the puzzle that you want to create in this speedrunning term. So it's simply doing things out of order that, the standard progression of Ocarina of Time is, all right, I wake up, I get my sword and my shield, and then I go beat the Deku tree, and then we move on to the second, the third, and the fourth dungeon. But it might actually be faster to go do the fifth dungeon first, because maybe it has an item that will speed up dungeons 2, 3, and 4 and beyond. You're kind of taking everything and reordering it, therefore sequence breaking.
Yep. Moving on, we're talking about routing. So routing is basically anything that you need. So it's creating. So you have, I look at speedrunning as like a problem. So you have a problem in front of you. How do I beat the game? Or how do I beat the game under certain restrictions? So, you need to get from step A to step D. But, along the lines, there's step B and step C and, probably a bunch of sub-letters under that. So all of that, figuring out the entire picture, figuring out what you need to do to get to that step D, that's routing. You're taking a problem and you're coming up with a bunch of solutions, whether it's one large solution to a giant problem or it's 1,000 solutions to a little problem, whatever it may be. You're coming up with a solution to your problem.
Yeah, definitely. I'm one of those nerds. Everybody's different. They have something that they are passionate about in speedrunning. I'm a big guy for routing. I absolutely love, again, just creating this puzzle, bringing it all together, from what sort of glitches and skips I'm going to do to even just little micro routing within a room. All right, I'm in a platforming video game. Just how do I micro route, jump here, and then run here for a section, then bounce off this enemy to get me up to this other platform to where you hopefully never break stride in any room. You've also got out of bounds. which is another, I mean, it's another glitch of sort, but anywhere where you are literally just going out of bounds, out of the regular boundaries of the game. Usually in a darker, like a void area that allows you to, a lot of times to our benefits, being able to move around certain triggers for things, like maybe barriers that say, oh, you need to get items A, B, and C before you can go through here. Now you can just go around all of that and be able to do things, again, completely out of order. Again, usually sequence breaking the game.
Yeah. Absolutely. Out of bounds is another one of those things. It's kind of like almost like the holy grail of speedrunning, because generally getting out of bounds allows you to skip a lot of things that you normally would have to take care of. So definitely something you hear a lot about. Moving on. So we have categories. You know, a lot of times you hear people say like 80%, 100%. What do those mean? Quite simply, a category is, of course, anything that has a particular restriction on your speedrun. So like 80% generally literally means anything. You can, you know, complete the game. There's no restrictions. You can do whatever you want, you know, whatever trick or whatever glitch you want to use. And then you have something like 100%, which means like you need to collect every single thing in the game. Then there's also low percent, which, you know, generally it says like, okay, you need to collect as little as possible, the smallest amount of things you can possibly collect. And there's game specific categories, you know, that, you know, they may ban certain glitches, they may ban, you know, one glitch, or they may ban all glitches, you know, whatever it may be. The categories vary from game to game, and they kind of all have their own names.
Yeah, a lot of it ends up coming down to speedrunners as a community will come together and just decide, okay, especially when your game gets really, really busted, say, all right, once again, going back to Mario 64, just to switch up from Ocarina of Time, you can beat that game with 0 stars. But obviously, there are a lot of speedrunners out there that want to show all their routing in these other categories, all these other stars that they've routed out. So being able to go and say, we're going to do a category where we actually get 70 of the stars, or all 120 of the stars. So you also got talking about emulators and version differences, just talking about other ways that you can play each game. It's not as simple as just, all right, just go buy Donkey Kong Country and play that. Maybe you're going to play that on an emulated version. And you guys know out there, obviously a non-official version of the game. And we'll get into how those compare later on. You also got different versions, like maybe you buy it on the Wii Virtual Console, or maybe there's like a PlayStation Network version, Xbox Arcade. We'll get into more of that stuff later. But yeah, just understanding what those are.
Yep. So you also have starting and stopping time. So, you know, within a run, there's always a predefined starting point and a predefined stopping point, and that designates when the run ends. It's not just, oh, turn my game on and, you know, start the timer. You know, generally the community for each different game has like certain guidelines. Like some may say, okay, when you press start, it says press start, you know, when it says like start game, well, as soon as you do that, that starts the timer. Or maybe some may be like, wait 5 minutes for this cutscene to begin, and then when it's finished, then you can hit start timer. You know, it really depends on the community. So, you know, starting and stopping times are unique from game to game generally.
Yeah, you'll be able to figure it out within each community that you are a part of. You got RTA and TA. Now, these terms stand for real-time attack and time attack. Real-time attack, RTA, is what you're going to hear more often, honestly, these days in speedrunning, actually almost all the time. And that simply means when you say something is a real-time attack, it means when you start your timer, it never stops. You're not focusing on, say, like an in-game timer that gives you a time. It's when you start that timer, even if you say, I got to pause it, I got to go to the bathroom, or I got to go take a phone call or something, that timer's still going to run all the way throughout it. You don't remove time, say, for deaths or anything, or if you have to take any sort of a break. Now, time attack is more broken up into if you're doing, say, like a segmented speedrun. It's something, like I said, you don't hear about this much in speedrunning these days. This was kind of more back in the day. Darkman, I know how you talked about how, you know, back in the day, we couldn't even stream for, you know, the links of some of these speedruns that we did.
Nope.
Just been streaming for that many hours. So people would generally break it up and say, all right, let's say I'm speedrunning. One of the first speedruns that I ever did was Kingdom Hearts 2. And I did that in 8 segments. So I would record, you know, the first chunk of the game over and over again until I had a time that I was happy with, and that was my first segment, and then I moved on to the second chunk of the game. That would fall under the heading of time attack, or TA, as opposed to real time attack, where it's all a single segment, where I went from the start to the finish all in one go.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, RTA is generally what everybody uses at this point because, we don't really have restrictions on time anymore, well, especially on Twitch. So, it's just, those are terms to know because they did exist at one point.
Sure.
Now, not so much.
And more people just honestly find it entertaining to watch an RTA as opposed to watching me reset on segment 1 over and over again for RNG, even though we'll do that in RTA as well, but we won't get into that. Moving on.
Moving on to RNG. So RNG is a very popular phrase. I'm sure you hear it a lot during GDQ streams. And really, what it actually stands for is random number generator. Basically, it's a phrase that most people use to signify anything that's random throughout the run. Something that could affect your run that you really have no control over. There's certain things that happen, and it's just totally up to the game as to what's going to happen. So it could sometimes benefit you, it could sometimes hurt your time. Really don't know.
Yeah. I would also recommend understanding before you call something RNG straight up, because a lot of people will just throw out that term kind of whenever. A lot of times people are generally just meaning randomness in your run that you have to worry about. So you also got splits. So this is, if you're a stat junkie like me, I don't know, Darkman, do you consider yourself a stat junkie at all? Do you like baseball or any of those sports?
I love stats. I love stats.
So these are, now we'll talk about, we're going to be coming up on technology here in a little bit, and we'll talk about splitting programs, but it's effectively splits are a way to, instead of just having one flat timer that just says, all right, it just goes from start to finish, you hit a key at the end and it stops. Now you've got something where you can effectively lap yourself to know, all right, throughout these different segments, if I'm playing a game with 10 levels, I want to know how I'm doing compared to the best I've ever done it or the world record or something at the end of each level, so I can have laps to be able to determine how that is going. And then off of that, you can break it down to all these other stats and stuff. We'll get into that more in the technology section, but it's a way to lap yourself to know what your pace is effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on, we have PB and WR. So PB stands for personal best and WR stands for world record. So personal best is basically your best time in a particular game that you run. You hear people talking about that all the time on GDQ stream. So that's really all it is. WR, world record, I think that's kind of self-explanatory. It's the fastest known time in a particular speed run. Obviously we say known time because, hey, there might be somebody, living out there that's just grinding away a game and, has a fantastic time, but we don't know that. So we can only go by what we know.
So moving on, guys, we want to now get into the technology section. I just talked about it. First thing here, we've got split timers. This is, again, if you're a stats junkie, this is going to be the number one thing that you're going to want to go download. These all are free, free software you can get. The kind of the most common by a fair amount right now that people will use is called Live Split. Mm-hmm. It's the most advanced splitting program that you're going to find online these days. And it's going to be able to not just give you that timer, it's going to be able to give you all the abilities to lap yourself off of your different segments across. It has a lot of cool customization features about adding, say, like icons you want for everything. You got all sorts of different stats you can look into, like, say, your best possible time or your sum of best. And what that generally will mean is it will give you your time, the best you've ever done each segment, each of those 10 segments. It'll then add up that time and give that to you. You can then look at your best possible time throughout a run, and it will tell you if you match your best you've ever done each segment, generally indicated by a gold split, the rest of the way, if you match those, this is the time you would get. So it gives you an even deeper analogy or deeper analysis into what times you could get and to what pace you're on. Other than Live Split, though, there are other programs that we've used in the past, and some people actually still use these. Landfair is one. W Split, the OG. You still use the Landfair?
I still use Landfair.
All right. You have a reason why you like it more? I actually didn't know you still used it.
There is, but that's not for here.
We're not going to get it. Okay, cool. Yeah, you got OG and W Split. You've also got a couple of mobile options that have been popping up the last 6 months to a year. You got M Split, which you specifically can only use if you're on an Android. It's an Android app. But I've seen other friends use it, and it looks really, really good. It has a lot of the same customizations as, say, like Live Split and whatnot. And for all programs, actually, I'm glad to hear, because I was jealous over there with my iPhone. You have a program called Frame Perfect. Sort of same thing. Darkman, I know you've looked a little more into it than I have. Same functionality, I guess.
Yeah, it has a lot of really cool functionality. Like I feel like before, like you know, when we had MSplit and maybe some other timers on the mobile, it was very basic. It'd be like kind of start, stop, and like that sort of thing. Maybe you might have like split times, but like it's kind of cool with Frame Perfect because it like allows you to like do kind of the similar features of live split on your phone. So you know, if you're like on the go, or you're like, you know, hey, you know, you do a switch run, you do it on a plane, you know, and then you get a nice timer with you. So it's pretty cool.
I'm going to love being on the plane, shaking my controller mad like from Mario Odyssey. Yeah, you got here. You've also got, in addition to that, so that is free, thankfully. One thing that you will have to spend at least a little bit of money on if you want your stuff captured are the capture cards. You've got different types of capture cards, obviously, depending on what kind of games that you want to get footage for. You got SD capture card or standard definition and HD capture cards for high definition. Standard definition, I generally find you can find some pretty affordable ones. I actually still use one of the classics, the Dazzle DVC 100. You can get that still these days for like 40, 50 bucks. More commonly, one that's going to cost you a little bit more, I believe. People will commonly tout the GD USB 2.
I use that.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I like it.
You've also got for HD capture cards, you've got the Elgato. I personally use the LGX Avermedia capture card. So you sometimes have to work out a few driver issues here and there, but it's another really good capture card. Game's going to look beautiful on it. You don't need this stuff. Depending on your community, some people will allow you can use, say, just like a webcam, or if you want to capture your games like with your phone or something. But I highly recommend it. I think you'll be much prouder of the product you'll have at the end, depending on what you got. And to note, if you just don't have the money, you cannot spend these capture cards, but let's say you have a decent computer, you can just run a PC game, and then you don't have to worry about capture cards at all.
Absolutely.
Definitely highly recommend that sort of stuff. Or you can emulate games. But I wasn't even reading here further on our page right here. You can emulate your games. Again, that is something that's going to be specific within each community if emulators are allowed. But yeah, there's lots of different avenues you can go down to hopefully get a good capture of your footage of what you're doing.
Sure. So moving on, you know, with your capture card, you're going to need some sort of display in order to use that. So we do have two options: your CRT. You know, I'm sure some of you remember the giant, you know, TVs, fat TVs back in the day.
The heavy ones, yeah.
They're actually really nice for older generation consoles. So they basically have no input lag. And what input lag is, it basically, when you press a button on your controller, there's travel time for it to display on your TV or on your monitor. So while HD monitors can certainly reduce that input lag, we'll talk about that in a second. CRT is basically the only like viable option for most people in order to have that no input lag. So it's very good for like older generation consoles. Obviously for modern consoles, you kind of need like an HD monitors. That's really not practical, but the downside to CRTs is they are getting increasingly harder to find. Most thrift stores in the US do have them available. If you are international, you may need to look elsewhere, maybe eBay or, you know, your equivalent of eBay. Maybe there is a type of thrift store out there. I'm not really too familiar. So, you know, definitely look around, check and see if it is possible. You know, you could certainly, you know, speedrun an older generation consoles with an HD monitor. Just may feel a little bit different.
Yeah, just imagine all of those like frame perfect tricks or even 2 or 3 frame tricks that we're talking about. Imagine everything gets shifted a little bit. So I do know people who have run older console games on HD monitors, and they just have completely different visual cues for when they time everything. But if you happen to have a warehouse full of CRT, if you are in this chat right now, you can make a fortune off of speedrunners right now, just letting you know.
There you go. So your other option, of course, is an HD monitor. So, you know, you look at your computer monitor, that's basically it. You just need something that could, of course, take like, you know, HDMI inputs or component in some cases. So this is, of course, necessary for modern consoles and PC games. Like if you try to play like a, you know, like a PlayStation 4 game on standard definition, that's just not going to work well.
Not going to look good either, as it turns
out. So with HD monitors, input lag is something to account for. Again, we kind of explain what input lag is. So when you're looking for monitors, response time is typically the designation they use for that. The less the number, the better. you know, a lot of the good like gaming monitors will say like 1 ms. That will probably be like as good as it's going to get. So, you know, again, it's not going to be the exact same as a CRT, but it gets pretty close. Like I just recently bought a 1 ms monitor, a gaming monitor, and I tried actually playing like some of my NES games on it just to see how it was. And honestly, it wasn't too bad. Like you can notice the difference, but it was nothing that was like obscene. It was just like, yeah, I could get used to this really fast.
You'd be surprised as a gamer how quickly you make those adjustments. Just, yep, everything's just one little bit bumped up. If you have a good lagless.
Finally, of course, streaming software. So, you know, two of the most popular features, OBS, Open Broadcaster Software, and XSplit. So OBS is a free version. XSplit does have a free version as well, but it's kind of lacking some of the features unless you get a paid version of it. It's kind of simple, basic idea into streaming software. We're not going to really go into too much. We're not really going to go into too much on the streaming side of it. That's definitely something you can certainly look up on your own. Just kind of give me the basics to get into speedrunning in particular. So we are moving on. Spike, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, we've got, this is where it starts to get a little bit more fun. We're going to, now that you've got all your technology, you got your, you know, your broadcast software, your splits, your capture card. Now you get to find your community or reference a run. So this starting off, okay, I want to run Donkey Kong Country. Well, what do I do? Well, there's lots of different ways. You can start by going to speedrun.com. To check what gaming communities are there. Most all speedrunning communities are located on speedrun.com. You can go there for the game pages and also check their resources tab. They'll have like their discords and whatnot, but not every single one of them. We'll get into a couple of exceptions later on. But yeah, definitely go to speedrun.com, best database for speedruns. Discord, I'm assuming most people here probably know what Discord is. You're probably in a number of them, but it's just a program for people to be able to have voice chats through, have a lot of discussions on things. Most speedrunning communities will have a Discord to them. So if you can find that, that is like the first thing I would recommend going to find. You might say, how do I get into those? Try to find someone that's streaming your game. Okay. You want to get into Donkey Kong Country, find somebody who streams Donkey Kong Country speedruns, and they'll usually be able to give you a hookup. People usually aren't going to be jerks about it. They're going to want, we generally, as a speedrunning community, I think we're super excited to hear, oh, somebody else wants to run Donkey Kong Country. Yeah. That's really cool. I want to give them that information. That's one more set of eyeballs that are looking at my game. Maybe you're going to make discoveries in my game. So definitely do your best to interact within that community. It can sometimes be the most fun, not to just do runs of your game, but feel like you're a part of the building process of that puzzle I was talking about in speedrunning. Maybe you find one little minor strat that just saves you a few frames over the course of the run, but you get to be a part of that. Or maybe you don't even do that. Maybe you're finding that you can race with people and whatnot. Now you might also say, okay, well, where do I find runs to find that initial reference? Other than going into those discords and getting recommendations from them, you can simply go to speedrun.com. That will, on the leaderboards, for usually all the top times at least, be able to tell you, okay, here are videos for all of them. I can reference that. I can do my homework. Not to make it sound miserable what speedrunning is, but there's a certain amount of work behind it. I'd call it homework, searching all those, breaking down the videos, break down the tapes. You can also, if you can't find them there, I wouldn't give up, even though that is a big database. Make sure to go to YouTube. Not everyone will upload their speedruns to speedrun.com. So you can check out YouTube. Of course, you can check out Twitch, both live and VODs. This is one that I don't highly recommend, but if you want to go to Nico Nico, it's a Japanese website, kind of a combination of sorts of YouTube and Twitch, but it's not free. It's a little hard to navigate it. But still, if you're just searching for stuff, especially, there are certain gaming communities that are more popular in Japan, say a lot of Japanese RPG speedruns, Dragon Quest, I can think of in particular. You can find a lot of good stuff there. So certainly it's a resource to remember, a website to remember for you guys.
Absolutely. But yeah, again, it's super hard to navigate, so good luck.
I'm glad we're both on agreement on that one. So.
All right, so moving on, problems and concerns. Like, so there's definitely some things you need to be aware of about speedrunning kind of off the bat before you kind of get into it. One of the first things is version differences. So older console games may require you to run a specific version of a game. So you think, wait a minute, it's a cart, right? Like they're all the same. Why would it be any different? Actually, everybody always complains about patches in modern day gaming. Well, patches existed in older console gaming too. It's just you could never tell because it was always the same cart. So they would actually patch games and release new versions of them, and just get rid of the old ones. So you wouldn't know the difference when you're buying it at the store. It's just a cart. So and those new versions would actually fix glitches, or maybe they would enable new glitches. So like one of the first examples I could think of is Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. So there is a version 1.0 that is actually Japanese exclusive. It is not available in the US. So in order to run the game optimally, there are actually a few tricks that are only present in that version. So you have to, in order to compete at the highest level, these tricks aren't things that save you like minutes and minutes, but they definitely save you time. So, in order to compete at the highest level, you definitely need that cart. So, you just have to be aware of that. And then things like, Donkey Kong Country 2, there's 3 different versions of the game, 1.0, 1.1, and 1.2. Now, there are subtle differences between them, but, for the most part, it doesn't make too much of a difference. But these are things you have to be aware of. So these are things that you should be asking your community kind of ahead of time and saying, is there a specific game or version that I need to look out for?
Yeah, that's definitely an example where you want to talk to your community and say, all right, we're going to give you the hookup. Because a lot of people, if you just go on eBay right now and search a Link to the Past card, it's probably not going to tell you a 1.0 version of it.
Yeah.
But your community is generally going to be able to help you be able to find at least an emulated version and hopefully point you in the direction of someone who has a cart that you can use for that.
Absolutely. So next, you have some PC games or modern console games may require older patches. This happens generally with PC games more so than like console games, but it is something that does happen. It's not too scary because generally, if your community does use that, they have it really easily available for you. All you have to do is ask. It's not too big of a deal.
Or they'll have a category split among different versions. So you don't have to feel like, oh, if I'm running Sonic Mania and I have just the newest patch, they've got 2 separate leaderboards for it. So it's very inviting in that way. Mm-hmm. At least in most communities I've seen. So.
Load times. So some modern console games may actually require additional hardware to reduce load times. One of the obvious examples is SSDs, solid state drives. For those not familiar, those are drives that just load things faster on your PC, and they actually can be used in modern consoles as well, like a PlayStation 4. So, it's just something to keep in mind. A lot of these things, they don't really matter if you're competing on a just casual level, you're trying to complete the game. But, if you're trying to get the world record, it's something to keep in mind. Again, it's just something you have to ask your community. And then also we have modern console games may load faster on particular versions of consoles. So yes, just like there are particular versions of carts, there are particular versions of consoles. And those consoles can all theoretically load speeds differently. So one of the biggest examples is the PlayStation 2. Spike, you get into it. I love your explanation of this.
PlayStation 1 games. So flat out, they're going to load faster on PlayStation 2s. But depending on which game you're playing, you need a specific PlayStation 2. You've got not only the difference between the fat models of PlayStation 2s or the slim models. Within slim models, there are you can check these on the back. Like if you're at a store and you want to get a slim PS2, there are 77,000 models, 79,000 models, 90,000 models. All of them load games differently. All of them at different speeds. Generally, I find 90Ks will load most games quickly, but this is getting it on PlayStation 2 and running it on the fast disk speed model. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we don't mean to do this to say, like, to dissuade you from speedrunning, we promise.
I know, this sounds stupid, and it is to a certain extent, but, again, like Darkman said, if you're just wanting to get into speedrunning, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Get a PlayStation 2, get a copy of the PlayStation 1 game you want to run, and it's fine. And you might learn later on, oh, maybe I want to make some sort of investment and compete on the highest level.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, some games may use a load remover. So this is a really cool tool. So it automatically removes loads from your games, and so it removes them from your splits. So you don't have to time that. You don't have to count for, oh, my PC is slower, my PS3 is slower than yours. No, this handy tool, automatically removes that. So it's really cool. Unfortunately, it's not present in a lot of games, but for those that do, it's really nice. So that's just one of the things, check with your community. You kind of see this reoccurring theme, check with your community. You're going to hear that a lot. Check with your community on a lot of things.
He's going to give you this whole document, hopefully, that just lays out, all right, here's the stuff you need, here's what you need to do. And it's different from community to community. So that's one thing I want you guys to take away from this, that while we are the speedrunning community, we are also kind of little subsects that every community will do things differently. Again, based on the timing of their games, how they'll time, based on how they'll like remove loads or not remove loads, different tools they'll use. So check with your community. Moving on here, we got it's not a debate here, but we have emulators versus console. Now, emulators, again, for anyone who doesn't know, it's sort of a non-official release of a game, generally more seen, obviously, in classic consoles. You're running an NES game, a Super Nintendo game, Genesis, all that sort of stuff, Nintendo 64. Not all emulators are banned, and therefore not all emulators are not banned. You've got, say Super Nintendo, you've got some emulators like Z-SNES or SNES 9X. Those are generally ways to emulate your Super Nintendo games that are pretty well accepted in most communities. Everyone understands not everyone has access to these carts, especially in their 1.0 versions. Maybe they don't have capture cards and whatnot. So a lot of communities these days will allow it. The big difference is that some other emulators will say not emulate the lag of a game, say, completely accurately. Some will load the game a little bit faster than the others or a little bit slower. So obviously, those are either not allowed at all, or they're at the very least broken up into their own subcategory or sub-leaderboard that you'll get to compare to and compete within.
And I do apologize to the Game Boy enthusiasts out there. I meant to put VBA is generally not considered an acceptable Game Boy emulator. So I apologize.
Oh.
Please don't put me out on a stake. I know it's not accepted.
All right,
I know it's not accepted. We'll amend this. Please don't feel
emulators also will allow certain features that you can't get on console. There might be some examples of that. You might have access to speed up or slow down. If you want to speed something up, speed through some text that you don't want to have to read. If you want to slow something down, we talk about frame perfect tricks. We're about to make that frame perfect trick a lot easier. Stuff like that, not allowed, obviously. You've got save states within a game, just being able to make a save anywhere you want as opposed to designated saves intended within the game to be able to do something over and over again until it works. You got turbo, which in most instances, at least in the West, kind of our rules, we generally don't allow turbo, being able to rapid fire a button without actually having to do it ourselves. But other games and other communities, more commonly, like in the Japanese speedrunning community, they'll utilize turbo a lot of times in, say, their Japanese RPGs, which, sometimes will have hours of text and they don't want to, wear out their thumbs throughout the whole of the playthrough. But again, that's another thing to check with the community. A big one that you can't do this, believe it or not, on console, is being able to press left and right at the same time.
No way, really?
Try as hard as I can. I cannot press left and right at the same time, which you obviously can on a keyboard. So that kind of gets you an idea of how there are a lot of things that are possible on emulators, which obviously, even though a lot of communities will allow you to use emulators, you can't use a lot of the features that are exclusive to an emulator. You've also got downloadable games in addition to emulators, more official releases of the games, which generally across the board, if there's an official release of a game, something released on, say, like the Wii or the Wii U Virtual Console for Nintendo, PlayStation Network for Sony, or Xbox Arcade for Microsoft enthusiasts, generally those are going to have a leaderboard. We're not just going to say, oh, no, those just don't work at all. But they are re-releases of the games. They will still sometimes get their own leaderboards. Super Mario 64 is a big example of that, where if you want to run the game, usually they break it up into Nintendo 64 leaderboards, an emulator leaderboard, and a virtual console leaderboard, because all of them load differently. All of them have a different amount of lag. I'm a dirty V-cheater, as they call them, running on virtual console. And it's got the fastest way you can do it, official release of the game. But again, check with the community, see how those line up, and either way, you should be able to find some good competition from it. A good example to also bring up, though, is that there are version differences within remakes. Take Donkey Kong Country 1 for the Super Nintendo, compare it to Donkey Kong Country 1 for the Game Boy Advance. Those are going to be two separate leaderboards. I've never played GBA Donkey Kong Country. It's a very different video game. So don't think that, oh, I can compete with the Donkey Kong Country 1, the Super Nintendo leaderboard, with the Game Boy Advance version. That's not the case. Again, usually a different leaderboard there for you.
All right, so moving on, kind of the meat and potatoes of the presentation, learning your game. So, there's a lot of, hopefully we've kind of put some information in here that, me and Spike have kind of learned over the years, and we're like, you know what, I really wish somebody would have told us this when we were first learning speedrunning.
Yeah.
So, first things first is kind of how do you learn your game? So, there's different types of resources you can use. Most commonly, people use videos, of course, and within those videos, there are different types of videos, as well as, of course, documentation that you can use. So the first thing I think is the easiest to learn from is the tutorial videos. So, a tutorial video, kind of like what I did at GDQ, will be like just showing you exactly what you need to do in order to complete a run. All the explanations behind every trick, every zip, every, sequence break, etc. All the routing that you need to know. So I'll show you all of it. So some of the caveats says they do not exist all the time, so not every single game has it, so kind of stinks.
Certainly a lot more than there was even just a few years ago. More and more tutorial videos popping up for everything. So
absolutely,
make sure you look for that first. But you were saying,
and it may not explain everything you need to know, so it's very easy to leave out something. I've kind of dabble in some tutorial stuff myself, aside from Strider, and like it's so like I would do like a couple takes and be like, oh, forgot this, forgot that, forgot this, so super easy for that to happen. So you still need to kind of do your research, but it gives you kind of a flow into things and how things work. So after tutorial videos, you can always watch a PB video. So of course, personal best video, like we said before. So it'll show you exactly what you need in order to complete the run, or what they did to complete the run. So unfortunately, the caveat to that is what you see is what you get. So you may not understand how a trick works when a PB video is happening. So you may need to, do some more research and figure out how that works. Talk with your community, of course.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those where I will say there are a lot of games out there that don't necessarily need a tutorial. I think any run could benefit from a tutorial, but there are a lot of runs that are pretty straightforward. Like Darkman said, what you see is what you get. I just have to understand, all right, if I watch this platforming sequence, I know how to do that. Yep. If I just break it down jump by jump, I know what I need to do. I don't need someone to break down why they're doing each of those things or how it works.
Right. So we also have a route document from community, kind of what Spike and I were talking about earlier with routing. So it kind of gives you all the detailed information you need to complete a run. So, typically there's pages and pages of information. It kind of gives you, of course, from start to finish, how to finish. Also, it usually has backup strats, things you need to be aware of, things you need to pick up along the way. This is very commonly used in RPGs because, they typically have a lot of documentation to them. You need to know, okay, do I need to pick up this item here? Do I need to buy an item at the shop? What happens if I don't have this many items or this much level experience? So it's very common to find out with RPGs. But the caveat to that is not often do they have video evidence to go along with that. So you may be reading and going, I don't understand what this means. So you may need to kind of do some more research, maybe look at a PB video or something like that to kind of see what else you need to do.
The great thing about having a route document, to interject one more time, is that is something often, especially if you're running, I've run Final Fantasy IX 40 or 50 times in my life. That is a 9-hour RPG. Having that route document is something I have had open every single time I run that game, because there are a million variables, probably literally a million variables to what items do I pick up, when do I pick them up, when do I use certain attack sequences, like if you're running like Pokemon or something. So that route document is something you will hold on to forever. But definitely, yeah, if you can find a visual learning tool to go with that, that's the best combination.
Yeah. And finally, we have marathon videos or commentated runs. So, of course, we have GDQ runs. I'm sure everybody here is familiar with GDQ runs. So they're really useful because a lot of times they go into kind of trick explanations that you may not find in like PB videos or, other sorts of runs. So it's a good reference. I remember I remember like, you know, I was watching some like old GDQ videos, and I would watch runs of like games I've seen speedrun like thousands of times, and all of a sudden they would explain a trick, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that's how it works. So like even if you watch a speedrun like a lot, you still may not fully understand how it works. So it's pretty cool. But unfortunately, the caveat is they don't always exist, much like tutorial videos. You know, not every game out there is going to be at a GDQ or another speedrunning marathon, which there are plenty of speedrunning marathons outside of GDQ. So something to keep in mind.
So again, those are a lot of examples that you can find on YouTube or say within the VODs of Games Done Quick, especially. Now, moving on, we've got a part that I'm going to preface this by saying, find some way to make this fun for you, because this is the biggest one. This is the iceberg of speedrunning right here. Practice, practice, practice. Again, find some way to make this fun for yourself because you're going to do it so much. If you don't enjoy this part, speedrunning's going to suck. I'm going to let you know up front. So there are lots of different ways to do practice. There's no one right way to do it. First example we have here is just going through the run and doing things yourself. Maybe starting off, and I actually recommend this as a first thing to do. If you want to pick up, you know, a new hot speedrun that just came out end of last year, we had Super Mario Odyssey. When I first started running the game, I just went through it myself. I didn't look at anything. I didn't watch how the top players did it. I didn't look at the document for which power moons, the collectible in the game, which ones I'm going to collect. I just went through the game, and then I went through it a second time. And then I went through and did it a third time. And each time I timed myself, and I got to watch that time get lower every single time. Well, not every single time. I'm not that good. But I got to watch myself improve and just naturally learn, oh, okay, this segment over here, I always die in this segment. So what do I need to do to prevent that? And then slowly, without even any practice in between, without any breaks, I just kept going through and getting those lower times. Now, after a while, I think you'll want to take that once you kind of feel comfortable with the game and moving your character or whatever it is you do in the run. You want to go into finding, all right, now let me take this and break it down a little bit more. Maybe for you, that means utilizing tools like save states. Modern games obviously don't have this as much, but if you're running, say, like a classic video game, say Super Mario World, you'll want to be able to go in, say on a console or say on an emulator, make save states in places and say, okay, this one jump is bothering me here every single time. Let me just make a save state right before that jump. And it might sound crazy, but do that jump for 5, 10, 15 minutes, an hour straight until I really understand how do I make this consistent for myself, even if it's not necessarily the strat that the top players will use. There are other ways that you can make save states on console, and those are godsends. That's so nice.
Okay.
You just use that. Super Nintendo gets a really good version of that, the Game Saver. NES has an EverDrive, ways that you can...
Right here.
Right there. Now, if you want to run NES games, get that thing on Darkman's screen right now. It'll make your practice just much more efficient. Because sometimes, a lot of times, what people get down on in practice is, okay, I failed this jump, I died, I got to go back to whatever the last checkpoint was in the game, I got to get up to that point. Being able to cut that down to like 10% of the time waiting or even less, that's going to make practice so much more enjoyable. There's also, I brought it up earlier, there's homework that you need to do within your practice. Again, you don't have to do it. Everybody can compete on different levels. Everybody, maybe you just want to get in and just kind of casually learn the run, but take the world record or maybe someone on a lower level, just a really solid time, and just watch through there and break it down and say, okay, how did they do this one segment? And just trying to, perfectly, or at least close to perfectly, emulate exactly what they did. There are other things, tools you can utilize that I didn't bring up there, like practice ROMs that can be put onto flashcards. That some games have the luxury, who have really storied speedrunning communities, say, I want to run Mega Man X, Mega Man X, X2. They'll have their own practice cards where you can just go to a stage and just give yourself certain items or power-ups that you want at that point in the run, so you can emulate and try all these different strategies. Say you're running Super Mario World, but you want to practice one level where optimally you're going to have a fire flower or a cape. Now let me enter it when I'm just small Mario and I don't have access to those things. You have those different capabilities that people usually within the speedrunning community have created for you to create those different scenarios. Again, check with your community, Some will have those. More and more are being made all the time, though. It's also, like I said, really good for that sort of stuff, to learning how to do backup strategies.
Oh, yeah.
We saw that within Super Mario World. We saw a couple of examples right there with Darkman teaching Jimmy Poopins at AGDQ. All right, if this doesn't work, how do I back that up? Oh, well, usually it's not as bad as you think. Sometimes it's catastrophic, but other times you can look at it and say, oh, I can just utilize this one power-up that I had access to. If I screw up a wrong warp in Donkey Kong Country 2, even though that saves me a lot of time, it's better that I understand how do I play through the rest of the level without that wrong warp, as opposed to just fumbling around and usually dying, or just going back slowly and setting back up the trick. Being able to understand that stuff is really, really helpful in the practice process towards having good runs in the future.
Absolutely. All right, so moving on. So another thing is you have to consider your approach to existing strats. Just because you see something in a video or a route doesn't mean it'll work for you. You know, like a lot of times, I'm a classic Mega Man speedrunner, so I speedrun a lot of the games from Mega Man 1 through 6. And a lot of times you'll see something like in a Mega Man 1 through 6 video that's like, this trick looks absolutely impossible to do, and it actually is. Like, you just can't do it starting off because like you don't have that kind of understanding of like the finer things of the game. So, you know, if you see something in a video, don't just automatically assume you're going to do it. You know, try experimenting with alternate strats. Come up with something on your own. You know, like you may not see it in a video, but it may lose a little bit of time. But if you're more consistent at it, it's definitely worth it. And also, again, like I said, it may take you more time to kind of be able to perform the trick. So it's just one of those things where you need to get more familiar with the game and how it works, and you know, just get more comfortable, build that muscle memory, so that way you can you know, do things faster. And when you can do things faster, chances are you'll be able to do that trick. And also, it may not be worth the time investment for you to learn it. Like some tricks could take you maybe weeks, maybe months to even learn, you know, or maybe it's like multifaceted, you know, it's just you have to learn one thing to learn this thing, to learn this thing, to learn that thing. So like, you know, it just may not be worth it. So, you know, just evaluate it, see if it really is worth it for you to do it.
Yeah, more people are starting to get into this. I've heard people say they almost want to look at learning a speedrun, teaching someone a speedrun, almost like teaching someone a class. Like if I take a Spanish class, a lot of times they're not going to teach you the hardest stuff right up front. You're going to want to learn kind of the base, just how do I move my character? So instead of me learning this really, really hard trick where the movement to be able to do that trick is extremely sophisticated, I'm just going to learn all the base strats first, and then a few months down the line, I'll come back to that strategy, and I will actually learn it much, much faster in that order. So again, yeah, finding whatever strategies work for you, that's really good to do up front.
And you know, you know, you may be able to learn everything that's in a video without question. You know, I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying, like, don't get down on yourself if you can't. Like, it's not a big deal. Just we can always do something else. So your approach to practicing a run. So there's infinite possibilities to learning your game. Don't just think like it has to be done this way or the highway. Like you can break down the run to different segments. Like for me personally, I kind of like to do that. Like especially with Mega Man games, you kind of like go stage by stage, learn a stage, kind of get familiar with it, practice it some more. Then okay, let's move on to the next stage. That's kind of like what the next segment is as well, grinding individual levels. So like, you know, you learn a game, you finish learning a game, and then, okay, so I seem to be doing poorly at a certain section. I'm just going to grind this level over and over again until I get better at it. Or maybe you're the type of person that's a better visual learner, so you just want to watch other people practice so you get a better understanding of the game. I definitely like watching other people as well. Yes. Kind of gives me more insights. You also get to see them do maybe backup strats that you weren't aware of that existed. So it's definitely cool to kind of watch other people. You could also, what Spike was advocating for earlier, is just learn the game and just do runs. You know, just learn the basic minimum that you need to complete a run and then just go from there and kind of learn as you go. Get more familiar with the game. Really, the takeaway is there's no wrong way to learn.
No. And every game is going to be different as well. With like, it's probably going to be different. Some games, I like to just do runs and just like slowly watch that time go down, and then later on come back and layer on those new strategies I see other players do, whether they're the best runners in the world or medium level runners with different sort of strategies than the top runners learn. Other games, maybe you just want to practice segments over and over and over again, that I don't want to do a run of this until I've really grinded every single level or every single boss fight or whatever it might be, every single puzzle all the way through, and then I want to start putting it together. There's no one right way to do this. Make sure you guys just, kind of allow yourself that luxury of being able to do things in a different order. Getting into, so this, it's going to sound a little bit like therapy, right? But the mental approach, risks and trade-offs to it. So when is learning something worth it to you? We brought it up earlier there a little bit, how, maybe something right off the bat is something, there's something that you don't necessarily think is worth it for you. It's going to be different for every single person. Do you feel like you can afford to lose the time by not learning the trick? It's a common thing in speedrunning that we'll look at a trick in speedrunning, and maybe that trick is crazy difficult, and you think to yourself, oh, I have to do that, but it saves like 3 seconds, which is actually a large amount of time in a lot of speedruns. I'm not trying to put that down.
Sure.
But take a second and use basic math. Compare yourself to, say, the world record holder. Super Mario Odyssey. I am 5 minutes behind the world record holder. There's a strategy that I don't go for in one level that I know in particular that saves 3 seconds. Okay, well, I can pinpoint those 3 seconds as time I'm losing. That means there are 4 minutes and 57 other seconds of strategies that I am not using in comparison to that runner. So a lot of times you need to do your homework. You need to go back and look through and say, all right, what else am I not doing? A lot of times you'd be surprised. I talk to runners about this all the time at GDQs and interviews that I've done, just, outside, just in candid conversation. I ask people, what's the hardest part about your speed run? It is amazing. 90% of the time, I swear, people will say the movement.
Yeah.
It is just being comfortable with moving. Darkman just getting better at moving Mega Man in Mega Man 5 or 4, whatever game. Mm-hmm. Or me being better at moving Mario through my space, moving Banjo and Kazooie, mostly Kazooie, in space, in Banjo-Kazooie, whatever that might be. The better you get at that, usually just naturally you'll see your time come down. And you'll think to yourself, wow, and look back to your old run just a month ago. What am I doing differently? You're just taking straighter routes. You're understanding how to optimize your movement, making sure you're sliding as much as possible in Mega Man or whatever it might be. So this is another big thing right here is I can't do this trick. No big deal, by the way. But don't say that right off the bat. Never lead off by telling yourself you can't do it, because until you try something, you never know if it's possible or not. I'm a big advocate for never just look at something and say, oh, that looks too hard. Because it is amazing how many times in speedrunning, and you hear people say it again at GDQ runs all the time, that, oh, so this trick here, yeah, it just looked impossible, this crazy flashy thing I just did. Yeah, it's pretty easy, actually. That's something with a little bit of practice or, just over time, it becomes muscle memory, it becomes really easy. Other things look really trivial. They're the hardest things in the run that all of a sudden you have to worry about. Make sure, I'm a big advocate, at least try something. Try something a number of times, and you'll sort of start to find out, oh, and I'll kind of show it here in a couple of the tutorials I've got coming up at the end of this, that these things that look the craziest, sometimes are the easier things to do, and they'll just save you oodles of time throughout the run. Never give up on something until you've tried it at least a little bit. Now, some things, I don't want you to feel like, oh, well, I've heard this thing's easy and I can't do it. Everybody's different. But make sure you at least try something. Now you might say, I can do these tricks, but I'm not consistent at them. Should I do them? That's a risk reward. Again, I'm a stats junkie. Darkman, I know you said you are as well.
Yeah.
It depends on what you want out of your run.
Right.
Do you just want something that is, you feel like you're going to go through and say, I can speedrun this. I can speedrun this Sonic game or Half-Life game or something. So I can, learn whatever strategies that work for me. I don't necessarily have to use the top strategies. But obviously that's going to change. Maybe you want to be extremely competitive at it. You're an extremely competitive person. You feel really strong at this game. You're passionate about it. You want to put a lot of time into it. Then, yeah, for the most part, if you want to compete for, say, like a world record, most, if not all, the strategies available to you, the fastest strategies, you're probably going to have to start going for. That doesn't mean you have to go for them right off the bat, because, again, I do still recommend layering strategies on as you go. But obviously that's going to change if you're trying to be really competitive. Maybe all you want to do is compete on the leaderboard. I'm 107th place on the Mega Man X leaderboard. okay, well, I kind of want to be top 100. That doesn't sound super sexy, but to me, that sounds really cool. I want 100 fastest players in the world to play this really popular speed game. Maybe I'm looking there. I'm 107th. Darkman is 103rd, though. I'm going to cut him.
He's coming after me.
I might analyze just his PB video, his personal best, and just say, okay, what strategies is he using? I'm going to start to implement all those, so I'm at least using that. Maybe look at whoever's 102nd and start to add on what their strategies are. That can be a really fun way to do it as well, climbing a leaderboard. Yeah. It all depends on what your goal is. And being able to take that, a lot of times I like to take a strategy. So take that 3-second strategy I was talking about, say, in Super Mario Odyssey. What's the risk reward? Okay, those 3 seconds, I feel 50% consistent on it. If I get it, I say 3 seconds. If I fail it, I know personally for me, a lot of times I die in the run and I might lose 20 seconds. Is that something that I need right now to achieve that goal? If I just need to save 30 seconds on my personal best to beat Darkman and I have like 5 minutes to save on the run, I probably don't need to go for that. But if you feel, say, 90% consistent at a strategy, that can change it for you. A lot of it, I think, comes down to what is your consistency level at any trick or strategy, knowing what that risk reward is in comparison to your consistency.
Right. You may not be consistent at all at a trick, but you may just need to go for it. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to talk to yourself and see whether it's worth it or not.
There are exceptions like Darkman's just taught with the Strider tutorial. Don't you? I mean, I pretty much have to go for the zips if I want to play Strider, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you pretty much have to go for those zips because that cuts out 90+% of the video game. So, but again, it's, even within that, there are a lot of safer strategies that you can use beyond just the zips themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, absolutely. Moving on to the next slide. Hannah, if you don't mind going up to goals and expectations. A little bit past one. There we go. All right, goals and expectations. So set reasonable goals for yourself. If you've never been a speedrunner before, aiming for world record probably isn't a good idea. It's probably not going to happen immediately. So, just be reasonable. If this is your first time ever, just say, okay, listen, there's 100 times on the leaderboard. Maybe I should aim for 75th initially. And just say, okay, I hit 75th. Now I can aim for 50th. Now I can aim for sub 35 minutes. Now I can aim for sub 30 minutes, whatever it may be. Just kind of set reasonable expectations for yourself, because you don't want to just be depressed when you're just not getting the goals that you want out of it. Play the game, see what works and doesn't, then set reasonable goals for yourself. So some games you just learn faster than you would other games. Like, for instance, if I'm playing a Mega Man game, I know I'm gonna learn that faster than if I was to play an RPG, for instance. So if I'm speedrunning and learning an RPG, I'm gonna set more realistic expectations. I'm gonna say, okay, I'm aiming for not last place. We'll see what happens after that.
That's a great starting goal, by the way. Look at what the bottom time is on speedrun.com and say, that guy right there, he's gonna stay last place.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? You don't even need a goal time immediately. Just play the game a bit, see how you're feeling about it, see, how you're doing, what your performance is. Maybe you've been watching a lot of other people play, see how your performance compares to them. And then maybe after that, you can kind of set reasonable goals for yourself. And the most important thing is goals do not have to involve only getting a world record or a competitive time. They really don't. There are so many people out there that they just want to complete the game. They just want to learn the game and say they've done a speedrun. Or maybe you just want to race with your friends. This is something that happens all the time. We're going to talk about this a little bit later in the resources, but there's a website, Speedruns Live, that people use to race games all the time. They just want to have fun. They don't want to try to beat the world record all the time. They just want to kind of play a speed game because they can.
Absolutely. Now we got here the mental approach, getting a new PB. This can get real frustrating sometimes, man. But again, like Darkman said right there, there is no bad time. We all have to start somewhere. Some people are naturally going to pick up things faster than others. A lot of times you'll see that within speedrunners, that sort of a skill set will translate really well. All right, if I speedran Super Mario Sunshine back in the day, when I play Super Mario Odyssey, even though it is a different Mario with a different physics engine and everything, it's still, you're going to translate better to that just because you have a better mindset of what speedrunning is and what you can do going into it, what you're capable of, as opposed to if you're starting fresh. Super Mario Odyssey is your first speed game. But it's best to not sit there and compare yourself to how that other person did. I had someone, they're like 12 seconds off of cutting my time in Super Mario Odyssey. I just saw them last night, and I've known this person to be a very strong speedrunner in other game series I run, like Kingdom Hearts. And I don't let that get down on me. I promise. I'm not beating myself up about it. But he's progressing really, really fast. Kind of sucks. I hate it. No, but I'd say, okay, everybody just picks up things faster. Some people, like, if they come on later on in the game, they don't have to worry about learning those older routes or learning those older strategies that people use. There's no, because there's a certain amount, like when I'm getting into new routing, I have to break old muscle memory and learn this new muscle memory. So just no matter what, don't overly compare yourself to somebody else. Comparing against yourself is the best thing you do right off the bat. What works for others may not work for you. It might, not just how quickly they pass you. It might take you longer just to get that goal and achieve those times than others. And don't beat yourself up about it. Just because you see someone get a faster PB than you doesn't explain the full story. Again, I brought up how speedrunning is like this iceberg. A lot of times what you'll see is, imagine there's a little itty bitty tip of the iceberg that's above water. And that's what we see on stream. And we watch, some people will stream that and they'll think, oh, he or she got that in like 3 runs. But underwater, there is this continent-sized iceberg that they have put so many countless hours of practice into, really grinding each segment, understanding everything about it. Even like you know how much you did, but you maybe don't watch their streams all the time. Maybe they put in a lot more runs and a lot more resets and a lot more practice than you did or they thought you did. And even if you have an iceberg and they've got an ice cream cone over here, it doesn't matter because you can learn at your own rate. Please don't overly compare yourself to somebody else because you really don't know. You don't know what their method is going at it compared to yourself. And again, maybe that's something you just need to ask in your community, like, why am I not progressing as much as I thought I could? Sometimes they can give you insight into that. Sometimes it's just a little movement strategy that you didn't understand that they did. Again, everyone's got their own method to getting a PB. Some people like to just do tons and tons of practice. They like to do practice not just off stream, but on stream as well. They'll do an entire dedicated practice stream. Maybe in between runs, they'll say, I'm going to stop and go back over the entire run and say, which 3 or 4 sections really gave me the most trouble? Let me work those out in practice and grind those a lot before I do more runs. Yeah. Other people hate practice, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. I want to make that clear. There is nothing wrong with people just being like, oh, I just want to speed run. I don't want to stress about it. So they'll just do no reset runs, or you never reset the run. You just, I'm going to play Mega Man 5, and I'm just going to go from the start to the finish every single time, and I'll just see my time, hopefully get better. And within that, I will understand things that are bothering me. I know you hate no reset runs.
I hate no reset runs. I just can't stand it. I try to do it. I say, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do no reset run. Then like 3 stages later, nah. So, sometimes it just doesn't work for people. I prefer the practice. I prefer, kind of, looking into certain things and kind of practicing that rather than just kind of doing no resets. Because I don't feel like I learn as much because that's who I am. It's different for different people.
Yeah, different people have different mental approaches, as we're talking about right here, where, maybe I know I'm kind of more similar to Darkman. I say I'm going to do no resets all the time, and then you get to a point you really hate the run you are currently doing, whether you can PB off of it or not. You really hate it. Sometimes a run's just got to burn. Sometimes you just got to burn it. You got to kill it. You got to get rid of it, throw it in the trash, and then just start anew. Other people, it just feels a lot better to say, you know what, I saw the end of the run. Sure. And it's good to look back at it and say, you know what, even if I didn't get a personal best here, there are certain segments that I did really, really well. Maybe you did it the best you've ever done it. So, yeah, definitely something to look out for in your runs, as opposed to just, if I'm not getting a PB, then it's a failure.
Yeah, and one thing Spike kind of brought up is like, kind of like the practicing segments. Like I like to so like when I play, for instance, like Mega Man 5. So like you know, a lot of times, you know, because I don't do a lot of no reset runs, you know, I don't get to the end very often. So, you know, when I get to the end on that really good run, you know, all of a sudden I get really nervous, right? It's like, oh, I'm on really good pace, you know, I'm gonna get a new PB, but then, you know, I choke it because I'm nervous, right? So what I like to do is I like to practice a lot of the end game. So like, you know, so we have like the final 4 stages of Wily, right, in that game. So like I will load up my EverDrive, I'll load up a save state at that first Wily stage, and then I will just time myself against those 4 Wily stages. So, you know, even if I like die or something, I'll just keep going. So like, you know, to kind of get a better feel for the final 4 stages. So that way, like you know, I may not be practicing under the same conditions, like the same nerves, but when it gets to that point of time when I'm on a run on good pace, that kind of that memory, that muscle memory will kind of kick in again, you know, a little bit. You know, it may not be quite the same, but you know, it'll still kind of be present. And you know, I feel like that's helped me a lot. You know, my latest kind of attempts.
I highly, highly recommend doing that for yourself because naturally it's the nature of the beast in speedrunning. You're going to reset a lot. A lot of people out there are really, really good at the beginning of their runs, even the first half of their runs. So make sure you do take time to say, all right, I see this 5% of the time, the end game compared to the start of the run. Make sure you go through that end game a lot. Because I'll see myself, I'll be like right next to world record after the first 10 minutes of a run. Then somewhere I lose like 5 more minutes over the course of the run. Usually I'm just seeing it a lot less. So make sure you give yourself that concentrated time on those later segments.
Yep. All right, so moving on. Don't get down on yourself when you're grinding and not getting a PB. This is something that a lot of us do very often. Like I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with Spike, unfortunately. You know, we all just get kind of like down on ourselves when we keep grinding and grinding. It's just nothing's happening. So we've all been there. So don't feel like you're unique. Don't feel like this is only happening to you. I promise you this has happened to literally every single speedrunner on the face of the earth, unless they don't do runs. So keep a positive mindset, you know, just be positive. I know it's tough. It's definitely tough to kind of stay in that positive mindset. You know, you just lost a really good run or nothing's going your way and you just want to so like pull your hair out or whatever or something like that. But you know, if you can't keep yourself in that positive mindset, just take some breaks. Take a short-term break. Maybe like, you know, you're streaming, like you're in the middle of a stream and you feel like you need to just get up for a couple of minutes. Just get up, you know, kind of walk around, take a drink, you know, whatever it may be. Just kind of mentally reset yourself. Sometimes you may need to take a long break. Like, you know, you've been playing this game for a long time, maybe weeks, maybe months, and it's just not working. Maybe you just need to mentally reset yourself over a long period of time. Maybe learn a new game, you know, like, you know, just like learn even like a completely different game. So like say I'm grinding Mega Man 5, right? And it's not happening. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to learn a new game. I'm going to learn a platform. I'm going to learn an RPG, something completely out of my element. And, you know, it's just going to make me think on different terms. So when I do come back to that game, I feel like I'm in a better position to maybe approach it. And most importantly, celebrate the totality of what it is to speedrun. It's important to recognize and celebrate your successes as well as point out your failures. A lot of times, you know, we definitely get down on ourselves too hard and we forget about the good. So just try to remember, hey, I got a PB in this. It may not be perfect, but I got a PB. I've never had a faster time before. This is the fastest time I've ever had. You got to kind of look at that and say, wow, it's pretty special. We're human, right? We can't be perfect.
Yeah.
So
it's really easy for speedrunners. We do it a lot. Yeah. I think that's because we are always pushing ourselves. A lot of us are very competitive. To look back and say, oh man, that run sucked. Don't do that to yourself. Don't just say your run sucked. Because a lot of times you look back on it and say, oh, my run sucks. Over a course of say an hour and 10-minute run, maybe an hour and 5 minutes of that was really good gameplay. But there was little segments that made up 5 minutes where you weren't doing things completely perfect, like you wish you could have done, or like you'd seen yourself do in practice. A lot of times I would say, get A- on our report cards, and we call that a failure all of a sudden.
Right.
I'm not saying you shouldn't have standards for yourself. Pushing yourself and knowing you can go better, I think, is always a good thing to do. But allowing yourself, like Darkman says, to enjoy the things you did well and point those out for yourself is going to be really good for the positive outlook going forward.
Absolutely. All right, and for our final slide, so we know some of the resources that we talked about. So first, we have speedrun.com, which of course Spike kind of talked about. It's the premier resource for kind of finding information about your game, whether it's the leaderboards, resources, a message board where you can talk to people. But there are exceptions to that. Some communities choose to use their own website, and that's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. Like, maybe something like zeldaspeedruns.com or megamanleaderboards.net or tkcspeedruns.com. So if you do not see a leaderboard on speedrun.com, that doesn't necessarily mean that a leaderboard doesn't exist. In most cases, they will be on speedrun.com, but there are some exceptions. So we also have LiveSplit. So LiveSplit we talked about earlier about the split timer that you can use. So there's a link right there. You can go to livesplit.github.io to download that. Discord we talked about earlier. Just really no explanation on that. YouTube, Twitch, of course, you can use those to find runs. Discord, of course, for finding communities. Speedruns Live, we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, but it is a website dedicated to racing games. So whether that means a game you have learned, a game you have partially learned, or a game you've never seen at all, whatever it may be, you can find a race. There's races happening literally as we speak. It happens, all the time throughout the day.
24/7.
That's right. So check it out. There's a guide on how to get started racing if you're interested in that. Speeddemosarchive.com is a website that has a listing of a lot of speedruns. Super popular back in the day. It may not be as popular anymore. However, it's still a nice resource if you're trying to find information on an older game and there's just nobody speedrunning it. So sometimes you may find some information there. So I would definitely recommend checking it out if all else fails. And I put Twitter there, and you might be like laughing at me, but I put that there for a reason. No joke. Like, it seems like the entire speedrun community is on Twitter. So if you're trying to find information on a run, or you're
those of you who aren't, you're weird.
So if you are trying to find information about a run or a community, try to hit somebody up on Twitter. You may want to hit somebody up on Twitter. Maybe you're trying to find information on like a popular series, but there's a game within that series that's not as popular. Maybe like a runner from like another game in that series might know. So, you might want to ask them. They might have some information, things like that. So don't be afraid to create a Twitter account and kind of ask around. So without further ado, that brings us to the conclusion of the panel segment. So we are actually going to take a short break. We're going to take a couple minutes break. And then right after we come back from break, Spikevegeta is going to demonstrate for you some tricks in various games that you can learn right here. He's going to do the trick, break it down, and kind of give you an explanation. So stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
And hello everyone. Welcome back to Speedrunning 101 here on twitch.tv/GamesDoneQuick. Hope you guys enjoyed the panel segment. This is one of my favorite parts of speedrunning. I love routing, and then probably right with that, Darkman, I know you're super passionate about this. You got to do this live at GDQ. How was that experience, I have to ask?
It was pretty interesting. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but once we got into it, it was really fun. It blew away my expectations. I enjoyed it a lot.
The number one thing that happens, I think, when people watch speedruns, because I know I did it, at least back in the day. I think for most people, you look at stuff and you go, wow, I couldn't do that. That looks really cool and impressive. And it is cool and impressive. And I don't want to discount all of the hard work that people put into it. But a lot of stuff, once you have someone break it down for you and you look at it, it's a lot easier than how it looks on screen. I'm going to teach you guys 3 of my favorite tricks in speedrunning that, call these party tricks if you want to. I think these are really, really cool, and they're important for learning any of these given runs. We're going to kick off real quick with Super Mario Odyssey. Obviously, word vomit. I was talking about it so much there during the panel portion. I want to show you guys how to do the single biggest skip in the run and teach you guys that it's actually pretty easy. It's actually anybody can do it. A little bit of practice, you can figure it out yourselves. So right here, we're on the moon. We are in the final dungeon of Super Mario Odyssey. So right here, you got here on the left side, you got the cave. You're supposed to go in there. It's a long dungeon. It's like, even if you do it really, really well, it's like 4 minutes. It's longer if you're me and you're going to die everywhere. We're not going to do that. Instead, we want to get up here on the top of this cliff. Looking at into the, that looks a little scary in there. We're not going to do that. So we're going to come around here to the side. We're going to roll along. We got this very conveniently placed Sphinx back here. We're going to use this bad boy in combination with the fact that we are on the moon. And we're going to be able to use this moon gravity, these moon physics to get up to the top of this cliff and go to the final segment of the game, including the Bowser fight. So I want you guys to look at the screen. It's maybe a little hard to make out, but you can kind of see this little line on the wall right here. Now look up here. There's another line right here. Some people look at that as an L, is what I look at it as.
Sure.
Some people look at it as a T, whatever you want to call it. Imagine this, if I make it an L, imagine right here in the center is like a box that I want to try to aim Mario for. And because of the moon's gravity, I'm going to be able to get that kind of height off a ground pound jump off of this Sphinx's head right here. So let's get set up first. So we're first going to get on top of the Sphinx. As you can see right there, Mario kind of showing off that moon gravity, that enhanced gravity. You can easily get up there. Now, first of all, a lot of times what we do in speedrunning is we go off of visual cues. You don't just kind of randomly do something. You want to kind of look for these very specific spots on the screen that you can focus on. So right here, looking at the Sphinx's head, we have kind of this head ornament he has on his forehead. I want to make sure that I am on the left side from our point of view of that head ornament. Okay. Now I'm going to face the wall, have Mario's little tushy facing towards us. And now I'm going to line up. I know, real PG right here. We're going to line up. I'm going to see, you see I'm kind of like more on the front part here. I'm going to do a ground pound jump, which is I'm going to jump up in the air. I'm going to do a ground pound. And then if I press the jump button again, it's going to give me this boosted jump. Gives me about the same height as, say, the backflip or the triple jump, roughly, of this game. That's going to give us the height we want necessary. So we line up the ground pound jump, jump straight up in the air, and you'll see Mario is going to go high up in the air, and then he'll start to fall. Once you kind of get a feel for it doing it a number of times. When you first see this, just do the ground pound jump over and over again here. Kind of get a feel for the timing of when you're going to start losing height. Right as you start losing the height, and it's not too tight of a window, you kind of learn it, you're going to throw your cap forward and then move Mario forward with it, which will naturally give Mario a cap bounce, jumping off of the cap. So you're just going to throw the cap with Y and then bounce off of it, giving you that. Now here we are. Here's our good friend, the L, or the box that we're looking for. I'm going to try to aim Mario to kick off of right here in the wall. Now, what I'm aiming for is that Mario doesn't really come in contact with the L part. I want to aim for really this center. So I'm actually going to fail it once here in this video that I did, but that's fine. It kind of shows you. I was barely touching the corner, the side of that L, and then I'm going to try to kick off of this part of the wall on the left. So you see, I'm not going to be able to get it. I was just a little too far left, but that's okay.
Gotcha.
This is still a trick that saves us minutes. So if you fail it, we just set it up and do it again. So again, left side of the head ornament right here, ground pound jump. I'm not going to pause here just so you can see the whole thing. Throw the cat, move forward with it, kick off the walls just a little more to the right, and then we get the kick off that wall. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the exit for the cave back there. Go back there. That is the exit right there. We just saved many minutes. If you want to learn how to speedrun this game, learn this trick and then just start playing the game. This will save you so much. It's the first thing you should always learn. And just like that, we're here at the top, and we are up the red carpet up to the final boss fight.
All right, first part of Super Mario Odyssey, I've already learned it. Now the second part, I need to actually get a Switch.
Yes. So for the low price of $360, you can have a Switch. Just shameless plug. You guys should have a Switch. These are a ton of fun games for it.
So my question to you is, you know, when you're looking at this movement, obviously Mario's in low gravity. How does that kind of like, you know, play into learning this trick? You know, because obviously, you know, for most of the speedrun, you're not in low gravity. You know, you're in, you know, very normal gravity kind of movement. You know, maybe it's a little bit faster. So how does that kind of affect you learning this compared to like some of the other tricks in this game?
It's definitely any time in a speed game that you're going to have to deal with something with different physics. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but what's nice here with Mario is that it's just the physics. It's just that drop timing. Pretty much everything else is going to feel really natural to you because it's the same move set that you've been using with Mario the entire rest of the game in the learning process. So sure. Other than learning that timing of when you start falling down, kind of seeing the apex of your jump, and then you start to fall, other than that, this is all I think going to feel really natural. Other games with different physics that you have to deal with or different mechanics, it's going to be a little bit harder to get into. But I definitely think for Mario Odyssey, just on the whole, I think this is a really good first 3D speed game for people to get into. Sure. Very inviting. A lot of the tech is relatively easy to do and inviting for a speedrunner. Sure. So there it is, guys. That is the first big trick. I guarantee you, go try to do this yourself. Again, line up with that left side of the ornament, ground pound jump. As you're falling down, throw your cat forward, moving Mario forward with it, bouncing off of it, getting that kick off that little part of the wall, and then a kick off the left side, and you're up there. It might sound like a lot of moves, but it's not precise. I promise you guys. And within 20 to 30 minutes at most, I guarantee you anybody will get this trick, which is good for how necessary I would say it is to speedrunning this game.
Absolutely. And I just want to remind Chad, if you do have any questions about some of the tricks that you're showing or what's going to happen later on, feel free to ask some questions. I can try to answer or try to, you know, ask Spike those questions. I can't guarantee that we'll answer them or we'll be able to, but you're also welcome to ask questions at any point in time, and we will do our best to answer them for you.
So with that, I think we'll move on to our second game right here. So we are HD games. We're going to go a little bit more classic, a little more retro style for these other two games. Let's kick it off with this one right here. We have got Mega Man 2.
I love this game.
This is an amazing game. I absolutely love it. And it's one of those first games that I remember watching back in the day and saying, wow, those tricks look crazy. I can't do that. Once again, the theme of this, anybody can do it. So here we are in Mega Man 2. This is Metal Man. A lot of people might like to come here first. I do recommend coming here. The only item we're going to need to be able to pull off this trick is item 1, which you get from completing the Heat Man stage to note. So here we are in Metal Man stage. Kind of moving along. You know, Mega Man doesn't have a lot of options. This was before sliding was implemented in the classic series. You pretty much just run and jump and shoot. So look at this. terrible section right here. Darkman can attest to it. You've got these, falling spikes. You got the section where a bunch of screws come up from the ground and the ceiling.
They do a lot of damage.
They do a lot of damage, and it's real slow. You got to wait on everything. Even the chains of these stupid things will do damage. I don't want to do any of that. I'm going to show you guys how to do a zip. We talked about zips much earlier in the broadcast. A lot of times it is a safety precaution that the developers will put into the game in order for the player not to get stuck. We're actually going to take Mega Man, we're going to put him in this ceiling right here and skip over all this stuff. So let's set up for it. First thing we're going to do is switch over to item 1 right here. Item 1 just creates a platform, a very still platform that will slowly raise up in the air. So we're going to utilize that, and we're going to put ourselves into the ceiling. So again, I have a visual cue right here. This visual cue, I've taught a 12-year-old how to do this and pick it up in like a minute. It's real fast. So, and this is really cool looking. So my visual cue here is, okay, so I got Mega Man kind of running here on the conveyor belt. And if you look here in the background, it's virtual console, so it's a little bit darker. But you got these 2 cogs back here. I'm going to start running forward slowly until the front part of Mega Man's sprite gets rid of all of the dark space there between him and this first cog, the cog on the left. As soon as that space is gone, I'm going to press B, which will drop my item 1 in the perfect spot where I want it. So running forward, drop item 1. You saw right there as the dark space was gone, that places it there. The reasoning for why we want the item 1 there is because we want less than half of it going up into the ceiling. Otherwise, it actually breaks the item 1 when we jump on it. So that's a little bit of like mechanics of why it works, why it won't work. But with that visual cue, that's all you really need to understand. It's in the right spot now. Now I need to move a little bit fast here. I need to jump on the right side of the item to where Mega Man is completely underneath this ceiling. So we're going to jump here. As you see, I position myself. Mega Man just only has to have a pixel on that, and he'll be able to stand on it. This will push me up into the ceiling. Whoa, okay. So here we are. Technically, the developers are like, oh, well, they're stuck. Well, how can we get them out of there? You can simply, if I just tap left, then I will just fall right out of the ceiling. It's a safety precaution to prevent that. Well, now what happens if we take that and exploit it? What happens if I press a different button before I press left? Maybe I'll go the other direction. So go up here once again, lay that item 1 as the dark space between Mega Man and the cog goes away, jump on the right side of it. It's going to push me up into the ceiling, and the buttons I'm going to press, instead of just left, I'm going to press B then left. You don't have to move fast with this. As you saw with the last time I went up there, I can just stand with Mega Man up there. Take your time, let him just go up there. We can worry about going fast later. I'm going to press B then left, and then this happens. Whee!
We're flying, boys.
You just skipped so much stuff. So much annoying stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do a quick replay. I want to see all of that again. Again, line this up. We're going to stand up here. And again, we're going to set it up one more time. Way back 2 hours in the video. That's okay. As soon as the door is on, place the item 1. Get on the right side. Be left. That is an amazing party trick, if nothing else, that you can shock people. And once again, one of the biggest time savers in the entire run. I guarantee you within a minute or 2, at least within, everybody learns at a different pace. Very quickly, you'll be able to pick that up and learn it yourself. Yeah. That's the basis for a lot of the big tricks in this game are the zips. And a lot of it's that same concept. You're going to get Mega Man into the ceiling, and then by pressing B and left or A and then left, which makes the window a little bit tighter. But B and left is a very a larger window that you can, I think 8 frames or something, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in the context of speedrunning is quite a bit and something anybody can pick up.
Absolutely. I mean, there are a various amount of zips you can do in that game. It's not just the same thing every time, but it's a great starting point. There's so many other things you can do. So yeah, if that's kind of your thing, look into it.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those lovely things where you've got something that is inherently simple here. And I taught you, I think, the easiest one, at least tied for one of the 2 easiest ones. But they can get super sophisticated. Some of the zips are pretty crazy to look at.
Yeah.
If I had an input display, I'd show you guys how to do like the Woodman zip. But I'm only bringing that up. The Woodman zip is one where it looks like you're just running through a bunch of jumbled parts of the level. It's another one that's relatively easy to learn. I highly, highly recommend. We brought up tutorial videos. Check out our good friend Duckfist. He created a Mega Man 2 tutorial for the whole game. It's about 4 hours to learn a 30-minute game, but he breaks everything down, and I was able to learn almost everything off that tutorial video. So again, look out for tutorial videos that will break all of this down even more. Okay, so I taught you 2 pretty straightforward tricks that save a ton of time. I'm actually going to teach you an entire individual level now within one of my all-time favorite games and favorite speed games. We got Donkey Kong Country 2.
Now, Spike showed me this ahead of time, and I was just like, what is going on? But, you know, just give it some time, you know, give it a hot minute, and then I think everything will start to make sense.
This level is famous for, so it's Parrot Shoot Panic. Normally what this level is that you're dropping down through this honey hive, you grab these purple parrots, and you descend very slowly down all of it. You're dodging bees and everything. I'm going to teach you guys, and you maybe have seen this if you've ever seen a Donkey Kong Country 2 speedrun. You've seen players just drop through the entire level and have it completely memorized. And this is another instance where you look at it and you say, that probably took forever to learn. Now, I'm not going to say, this is not like the last 2 tricks where you're going to be able to, in 5 minutes, be able to do this whole thing. It's probably going to take you a little while, but not nearly as long as you might think it does.
So 6 minutes.
I'm going to show you, 6 minutes, absolutely.
Okay.
It is amazing. Gosh, if you learned it in 6 minutes, I will pay you money. But assuming you're everybody else, you can learn it pretty quickly here. I'm going to teach you guys a beginner route. And most of it, I want you to understand there are walls all over this level. A lot of times what you're going to do is just get flush with a wall. Just go completely up against a wall and let yourself drop straight down. So let's go through the whole thing here. So Parrot Shoot Panic. You're going to first want to start off with Dixie Kong in front. Again, the difference between the Kongs, just a layout. Dixie has her hover ability where she can slowly hover and, you know, dodge obstacles and stuff. Diddy does not have that. He's faster, so he's preferred for most levels in this run, but Dixie's going to be preferred in most instances in this level. So the first thing we're going to do is just walk off this platform and get flush with this right wall. I'm going to hold right all the way down to this parrot, which lands me on the parrot. Now, if you look at a Super Nintendo controller, the top button is the X button. That is where you're going to use to jump off any of these given parrots. As soon as I jump off this guy, I'm going to hold left. It's going to push me all the way up against this wall. Now, as long as I continue holding left, this will be one fluid motion. I'll keep holding left. Holding Y will also allow me to pick up this crate, putting an item in Dixie's hair. And by keep pressing left, you go over this enemy right here. He won't hurt you. Now, having this item in your hair means you cannot grab onto the parrots, so you'll naturally fall through it. As soon as I pass this parrot right here, I'm going to hold right to go up against this wall right here. Now, I'm not going to keep holding right. I'm just going to let myself get up against this wall and then start to fall down. There will be a sequence of 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. Once you pass the 3rd B, I want you to then hold right to go past him, which will get you through this little area and dodge those bees. Now, if I jump over this little gap right here, I will run that crate. Finally, I'll give it a nice home, that bee's face. Get rid of him, drop down. Let's say you lost that crate somewhere. Let's say you accidentally hit one of those 3 bees you passed. Not a big deal. He'll move up far enough to where you can just jump and curve down here and just waste just a little bit of time. Drop down here, jump on both of these guys. Go ahead and just clear them out. Now we're going to jump onto this parrot and immediately press X to jump off of him, landing on this platform right here. What I'm about to show you guys is maybe the single hardest thing that you have to do in the entire level. I want you to press Y, which will make Dixie do her little spin. And then you are going to jump out of that once you get underneath this B, and then you can press Y again to go back into your hover. So spin off, jump once you get underneath this little ceiling right here, and then start your hover. So as you can see, you can now just hover, and you'll slowly, as you get faster at this level, you'll learn to hover less, that you want to kind of minimize the amount you're hovering. But for there, you can just hover past it. That's actually still, even that is faster than riding the parrot. Well, then drop down all the way throughout this chute. Press X as soon as you touch this parrot, and you're going to take your first damage boost right here. Follow me, guys. Once we hit the halfway point, I'm going to go back through the whole thing. This might seem like a lot. It's mostly hold left, hold right, hold left, hold right. We're going to take our first damage boost right here, the first of 4 throughout the level in this beginner round. We're going to drop down and we're going to take damage on this B right here at the bottom. Now with Diddy, I'm going to press right and get flush with this wall right here, and then just let him drop down. You'll have enough iframes or invincibility frames to go through this B right here. You'll make it. I promise you will. I'm not lying. And already we are at the halfway point. You just cut like probably what's a 3-minute level, the first part of it, down to like 30 seconds when you're really, really good at it. So we're at this halfway point. Let me go back through the whole thing. Let's just show you it in real time. All right, so enter the level. Start with Dixie in front. Going to hold right, get flush with this wall. Hold right, hold right, hold right. Jump off the parrot, hold left, hold left, hold left. Keep holding left all the way to here. You're gonna pass 1, 2, 3 Bs, move right, slam this crate into the B, clear out these 2 enemies. Pretty simple stuff. Jump off of this parrot, land on the platform, press Y, jump, and then repress Y to hover down all the way until you've comfortably made it past these Bs. Drop down immediately off the parrot, press X to jump off of him, take that damage on that B and move up to this wall with Diddy, holding right off of that, and then let him fall all the way down. You are already at the halfway point. Now, Darkman, I want to ask you, how much of that does that seem complicated to you? Do you feel like in a certain amount of time you could pick up that first half?
Nothing seems complicated. It's just memorization. You have to learn it. And I can tell you right now, if I were to try it right now, I'd probably die in the first beat.
Yeah. Oh, you absolutely would. I died on the first beat many, many times. I want to bring up another thing real quick, another resource to talk about, save states. If you're playing this on emulator, make a save state right at the beginning of the level. Then every time you fail a jump, you don't have to go back to the start of the level and fall down through it. Even if you're going to eventually do your runs on console, there's a piece of hardware that you can purchase for the Super Nintendo by Nakitech called the Game Saver. Make sure, if you guys can get a hold of that, it's pretty cheap to buy. It's like $30. It is one of the best pieces of hardware you can get. It creates save states on console. That made learning this 10 times faster and way more enjoyable.
Absolutely.
All right, so here we are at the halfway point. There are a lot of people in the DKC community who are going to cry over this. You're going to take the midpoint parrot, right? Jump on this guy. It's okay because we're only going to be on this parrot for like 5 seconds. You're going to slowly, if you hold down with him, he actually moves down faster. Move through it however you want. You're going to dodge this B, then dodge this B on the left. And then whenever you jump off of the parrot, you're going to jump above the parrot. So do make sure that there is not, that's why I'm kind of clearing more space here than it might seem. Because you're going to jump up here, make sure there's not a B up here. And conveniently, you went through a DK barrel right there. So we already have our 2 Kongs back. So get here, jump off, and you're already down. That's the only time we're going to ride a parrot in the entire level with this route. Okay, so now we're going to come over here. I see a wall right here. Guess what? We're going to push up against it. So we're going to push up against it to the left here, allow ourselves to drop, don't hold left. And then we're going to roll through this porcupine right here, do a cartwheel, pressing Y with Diddy. And we're going to come down here, and I'm going to team up by pressing A in this game. That will actually put your other Kong on your back, like you see right here, Diddy picking up Dixie. And what that does, similar to the item that we had earlier, that crate, I cannot grab a parrot while I'm holding her. So we're going to get up against the right wall here, going through past this parrot, and we are going to take damage, which again, conveniently, you see another DK barrel right here. So we're losing Diddy, and then we got our boyfriend right back. So Dixie's not going to have to worry too much about it. Now we're going to drop down. You're just going to hold right, stay up against this wall. You're going to fall down, and what you're eventually, the cue you're going to go off of, as soon as you see yourself grabbing these 3 items you just passed, a banana token, a set of bananas, and a banana token, you'll be able to hear it in the game. That's your cue. Anytime after that, pretty soon after that, you're going to want to press Y to start hovering with Dixie. So we're gonna hover here. Again, you can shorten this later on when you're optimizing it, but for now, just hover. You're gonna have these 3 sets of Bs, and then you have this wall. This wall is our next friend. We're going to fall down right here. If you jump there properly, it's a little bit of a tight timing. You can actually buffer the jump by holding B, so it's stupid that I even missed it, but you can get a jump there on this wall without taking damage to the Bs. I took damage. It's not a big deal because there's going to be a backup Donkey Kong barrel coming up right here in a second. So we're going to drop down right here, weave around that B, and there's our backup Donkey Kong barrel. Get rid of this enemy. Break that open, and make sure you put Dixie in front, which if you didn't take damage like I did back there, Dixie would always be in front. Just going to drop down here, spin through these enemies. We're on the final section of the level right here. Spin through these enemies. This is our final purple parrot. All right. X to jump off of him, come down. We're going to hover to dodge these Bs, and then drop down here, land on this B, and Diddy should, most of the time, he will bonk his head right here, which will cause him to fall down a lot faster as opposed to having that auto jump animation. We're going to move all the way to the left wall. Left wall, we're going to go past 2 sets of Bs, and as soon as you pass that second set of moving Bs, hold left again, and you are home free. Drop down, and you just finished the entire level.
Heck yeah.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That will take you a little while to learn. Not everything in speedrunning is something where like, oh yeah, you just learn it in a few minutes, you pick it up. You need to put in that work. But I promise you, you will learn that entire level a lot faster than you think. And that's going to be a really cool level that saves a lot of time and something cool to, if nothing else, show off to your friends.
All right, so let me recap. You have a jump and a roll and a slide and a Dixie hair and a couple of jumps and you're done.
Yeah, and then you dodge the Bs, and then yeah, that's it. Okay.
Got it.
So Darkman picked it up real fast as you saw it. Not all of you are gonna pick it up as fast. Again, no big deal. I'm gonna just let the video run here, let you guys see the whole thing. But yeah, this is one of my absolute favorite levels in all of speedrunning. It just looks so cool. And again, like the other things I've shown you today, it's very easy to pick up, I think, in relative terms. Again, for the most part, just learn there's a wall, get flush with that wall. Hold left, hold right. It's not tight frame windows I'm really teaching you to do anywhere. Roll off this thing, jump, and repress Y. Hold Y as you're floating down through here. As soon as you clear those Bs, drop down again, press X. You got a damage boost. Get up against this wall. There's damage boost 1. You're gonna take this midpoint parrot right here. Again, you're only gonna be on him for like 5 to 10 seconds, depending on how slowly you go down through here. Jump off of him with X. Get on the wall, roll through, team up, fall down, take the damage. You're gonna fall down through. As soon as you pass those 3 items, start your hover. Get up against this left wall and jump and drop. And if you're good, unlike me, you can avoid the damage right there. Pick up the DK barrel, make sure Dixie is in front so you have her hover. Go through here. The final parrot, drop down, take that damage. You're gonna get up against this left wall, 1, 2 Bs, up against the full left wall, and you're at the end of the level. You just turned like a 6 or 7 minute experience into a 1 minute level. Super, super duper cool. If you're looking to get in Donkey Kong Country 2 speedrunning in general, this is a really cool run. We talked about wrong warps earlier. You get to learn a lot of cool tricks about that sort of stuff. And they're also, I'm not gonna say they're all easy, but most of them are things that I think anybody can pick up.
Yeah. And you finally got a call out, saying about the midpoint parrot.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. I was like, maybe no one in the donkey community will watch this today. It's beginners. That is the first thing I will say that you'll learn to cut out. That's one of the first things. It's a little bit more advanced, just dropping down through this section right here without taking the first damage boost that I took with Dixie. But it's a little bit of positioning you have to learn. You'll be able to learn some visual cues in the background. But I absolutely recommend, I'm getting a call out, so I'm going to call out them, but for a positive thing, because I'm a positive human being. This trick right here, you'll be able to learn visual cues for like what you look for on the back wall to like land on this platform, hover down, dodge all these Bs. If you go to dkcspeedruns.com, it's a really great resource for learning anything, especially in the classic Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, 3 trilogy for the Super Nintendo. They'll be able to give you breakdowns of every single level, and not just what they are at the highest level. They'll have beginner strats, intermediate strats, and advanced strategies. They'll rank them in order of, a 1 out of 10, obviously, to a 10 out of 10, even a 12 out of 10, if the tricks are really, really hard. So you can kind of break it down and say, all right, let me learn all the 1 out of 10s first, then the 2s, then the 3s, so on and so forth. At the easiest level, I think all the strategies I showed you guys today, they rate this like a 4 out of 10. So as crazy as it looks, I promise anybody can learn it. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Spike, for those wonderful glitch demonstrations, and kind of the not necessarily a glitch with the parachute drop, but still pretty cool. So we're gonna go from these glitch demonstrations to a really cool surprise. So you've seen glitches. Now, why don't we see a full run? So Spike is going to take us through a full demonstration of a 16-star run of Super Mario 64. So he's going to go through everything that you need to know in order to complete a 16-star run. It's not going to be advanced strats or anything like that, just the things that you need to know to finish your run. So if you guys have any questions while he's doing it, feel free to ask, and we will definitely try to answer them as best as we can. So without further ado, Spike, take it away.
Yeah, let's switch over real quick. Let's switch over to a different capture. Which these are, I believe I had it on this one. Yeah, here we go. I had to remember where I had it. As you can see right here, I am on the Wii Virtual Console. You still can compete on this level. It's compared on a different leaderboard, to note, than Nintendo 64, or if you play it on emulator, just because there are differences in load times and lag. This is the fastest official version of the game. I am touted a proud member of Team V Cheaters for Virtual Console, but you don't have to feel bad about it or anything. Again, people poke fun more than anything. So here we are on the game menu. We have where we're going to start all of our runs. So they actually borrow, the Super 64 community borrows from the Japanese timing for this, where it's actually, as opposed to like starting from new game file or from when you start moving Mario, it's actually going to be from power on. So every time you want to get into a run of this, make sure you're going to hit reset on the timer. So I would start here with 3, 2, 1, and go. Which actually loses me time here early on. I just want to note, V Cheaters had it hard. And I would lose a little bit of time there to the startup animation. What's nice about resetting there is you can actually just mash start at the beginning, and you'll automatically select File A. So always make sure that your File A is cleared, and then you can get right into it. So just a little primer right here. Just so you know, the reason why I'm showing you guys 16-star, this was the first game I ever raced on Speedruns Live. This was one of the first speedruns that I ever saw. This is one of the most impressive speedruns I ever saw. And it was another one of those, like the tricks I just showed you guys. I thought, man, this stuff's impossible. Anybody can do this stuff. I'm going to lead you through something where if you want to get into this and just race your friends right now, I think anybody can pick this up really fast. And you'll be able to beat Super Mario 64 in under an hour, in under 45 minutes. I think anybody in the world can beat Super Mario 64 in under 30 minutes. And I'm going to show you a base route right here. Again, not all the advanced strats, but I'm going to show you a base route to be able to go through the game and be able to beat it in under 30 minutes with a little bit of work. So the first thing to understand here is we've got Mario. There are two big things you need to understand about him, is that you want to understand how to move your character, just like in any speedrun, how I move Mega Man, how I move Donkey Kong, how I move Mario. So we got, obviously, he's got his running animation right here. He can jump. He can extend that all the way into a triple jump for a lot of height. You can jump and then dive by pressing B. You can dive and then press A. BA gives you that rollout animation, which gives you a lot of speed and just maintains your momentum coming out. If you press Z, then A in quick succession, you can do your long jump. Doing your dives or doing your long jumps are about the same speed. It's really just based situationally around what sort of spacing you need for any given platforming segment. But a lot of times you can kind of have your own preference of whether you use more dives or more long jumps. There are other things he has, like his punch. You're not going to do that too often. You got here, you can jump up in the air and press B to kick. And that's really good for like resetting yourself as you're about to fall, maybe prevent yourself from taking fall damage, which is really slow. But we'll get into more of that stuff later. But again, big things, long jump, you can jump, then dive and roll out of it. You can simply dive when you have enough speed. So here we are at the beginning. We skipped a couple of text boxes right there. There is a trick you can go for right here called Lakitu skip. It saves about 7 seconds, and you don't have to talk to the camera guy. I usually have a setup for it. Let me just try to go for it here without any setup. Yeah, there's a whole setup you can do to try to line it up. You're trying to land on the left side of that bridge. It's not a big deal. Like I said, 7 seconds. Not something to stress about here when you first start off running the game.
Now reset the run.
Yeah, well, that's
now reset the run.
Here's the big thing. If you're going to go for it, that is water. That is the moat. Do not miss the bridge altogether and go into the moat. That is, I would recommend resetting at that point. Anyways, here we are going in. The other thing that's important. So I just pressed R right there. In addition to moving Mario, you want to be really good at controlling your camera throughout the run. That's honestly, a lot of people will tell you get into Super Mario 64 speedrunning. That's just as important as moving Mario, making sure that all of the angles you take at everything is completely consistent. You're going to do that with the C stick or the C buttons based on what you're playing on, or you're going to do it with the R button. By pressing R, you can see there in the bottom right corner, it actually puts me into Mario Cam, which generally is just going to center the camera behind Mario. And you press R right as you're entering the castle right here, because now if I just hold up and long jump, you can see I made it around that, I kind of angled around that wall, and it's going to set me up to go right towards this first room I want to go to, Bomb on Battlefield. I do 2 long jumps here. Again, when you're starting off here, I wouldn't worry too much about like your specific movements. Like I said, a lot of it, like right here at the start, 2, 3. Let me just go through some text boxes. I can do long jumps over here. I could do jump dives here, which is kind of pressing A and B at the same time. It's whatever you want to figure out spacing wise that's comfortable for you. You were gonna.
Yeah. Immersive46 had a question. Immersive46 had a question. This is actually a live tutorial. He's actually playing while explaining. Yes, this is actually a live tutorial. So he is playing the game and explaining at the same time.
So again, to show you guys, it's all not that hard. I'm just gonna come over here and teach you guys another cool trick. This is really good for climbing all slopes. I'm actually gonna jump over here. I'm gonna hold A the entire time and just press B. You don't have to mash it or anything, just lightly tap it. As you can see, I could climb this slope. Normally, if I try to climb a slope, I'm only gonna go up a little bit and then I'm gonna eventually slide back down. This doesn't have a ton of uses in 16 star, but this is a really good technique just, I think, to understand right off the bat. Not all slopes work, some are too steep, but that is an example of one that you can utilize it for. All right, so right here, this is where you could do a bomb clip and get the first star. It saves a good amount of time, like 14, 15 seconds. I'm actually not 100% sure on that exact time, but for now, this being the beginner tutorial, we're just gonna set up right here and ground pound the peg. Oh, I'm missing it, whatever. We got it. I'm not as used to breaking that, but whatever. As long as you don't get hit too many times like I did right there, you're just gonna ground pound that 3 times and get your first star. Again, you'll be able to find, like on YouTube or something, or say in like the community Discord for SM64, you'll be able to figure out how to grab this bomb and use it to actually clip through that gate. Right now, starting off, not a big deal. Right there, I actually used a technique, just to kind of go over it real quick. There's also just your ground pound animation, which you would think would be a technique you wouldn't utilize that much. It's kind of slow. It doesn't give you any, horizontal movement. However, a lot of times for grabbing a star, if you just jump into it, you kind of have this whole like lift animation that Mario will go into and then fall to the ground. Whereas if you jump right underneath the star and then ground pound quickly, he'll kind of almost like sip to the ground really quickly. Saving yourself just a little bit of time on each star grab. Again, not something to worry about too much because we're only going to get 16 stars in general in this run, and not always will you use that. It's not universally always faster, but it's something to keep in mind. And a little optimization that you'll get to implement throughout your run that's pretty simple to do. So we have our first power star. Now let's go over here and go into a course. We're actually done with Bomb on Battlefield. Most of the stars there are pretty slow, so we just grab one. The one kind of required one in order to get into these other rooms. And now we're going to go into Womp's Fortress, where I'm actually going to get 5 more power stars of our total 16. All right, so entering here, we got, it's good to kind of memorize the amount of text boxes. I didn't say it in the last level, but again, look at the bottom right corner. You got my Lakitu camera view right there. If I press C stick down, or the down C button on the N64 controller, I'm in this, you can see the little arrow now below the camera. This camera is preferred in like 90% of situations. So you'll just kind of practice it as you enter the level. You'll kind of get a muscle memory for just press C down. It won't always be the case, but most situations take it as a good general rule.
Spike, sorry to interrupt you real quick. Unmute your audio on OBS. Unmute your mic on OBS, and I'll fix what we had. We had an issue. It should be fixed now. Once you do that.
All right, so I have unmuted my mic. So here we are.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're first going to get our, probably the simplest of the power stars.
So, sorry, real quick, Spike. I apologize for the issue we had earlier. We had a audio issue, so now we fixed it. It should be good now. So, basically, from where you started, Spike, they probably couldn't hear you, so you might want to go back to the beginning and explain. The beginning? Just from the start of this start of this star.
Of this star. Okay, yeah. Yep. We can do that. Absolutely. Yep. So we are here at the beginning. I kind of explained like a basic thing you want to understand about this game. Again, I'm talking a lot about your camera movement in addition to Mario's movement. So you see right here, if I press up on the C stick or down on the C stick, that changes the camera like this. And if you see the little arrow underneath the camera in the bottom right corner, that indicates that I'm in C down. That's where you're gonna want the camera like 90% of the run. Then from there, it's just pressing C left or C right to adjust things. Your camera move is actually going to be super important to a bit of a magic trick almost that we're going to do here in a couple of stars. But yeah, most of the time you're going to want it here. It's just going to give you good coverage, a good view of everything you want to do, as opposed to in C up, where you're kind of running around. Everything's a lot closer to Mario. You don't get to see kind of on top of a lot of things you're going to do. But here we are. First of all, you're going to want to long jump into this tree, climb it, and then as soon as Mario is kind of facing away from the camera, you want to jump and then press B to dive up here. So let's go over and get our first star. This star is pretty simple. If you kind of look up there, we have a power star. I'm trying to get a good camera angle to show you. You got your power star up there and to the left for Mario's head. Normally they want you to take the cannon right here later on. We're instead just going to do a wall kick. Now, you're going to want different visual cues for where you do your wall kicks. I kind of look at, all right, so if you go from this grate all the way to the wall, you see kind of there are these longer bricks, the horizontal bricks that Mario's got his face on right now. If you kind of get him lined up with this one right here, kind of 2 bricks away, you'll now do a move away from the wall, and then you're going to side flip. And then if you press A just as you're about to hit the wall, you'll be able to do this wall kick. So you're moving away from it with the stick, stopping, and then kicking off of it again. With that, as you can see, this is like your bread and butter technique for how you break a lot of the platforming in this game. And you can sequence break, as we talked about. So let me go ahead and do that. And working on your angle, you're able to get up here, and we're already at our second power star.
You make that easy, but I will say, like, you know, from the few times I've casually played Super Mario 64, I feel like getting the timing of like your wall kicks and also like angling it correctly seems to be like the hardest thing about learning this game.
Yes. That's why I recommend going to that star next, is that is the star where you're just try to do that over and over again. I'll kind of show, like, you'll do this in that star, but you'll just do this off of the wall and just learn your kick timing. They actually made it's a lot less lenient than in newer Mario games, where a lot of times Mario will kind of slide down the wall. It's actually a 4-frame window, which Mario 64 is a 30 frame per second game. So 4 frames is like kind of tight for like a main mechanic, honestly. You're not going to run to that a lot of times in your speed games. So make sure you just do this over and over again, get a feel for it, get the timing for it, and it'll be different based on your camera angle. But learn that on that second star I just showed you right there. Okay, so now let's do a couple other easy stars right here. You'll see me say that a lot. Is that the stars are, most of the stars you have to do here in 16 star, pretty trivial. There's not a lot to them. Alright, so make your way up here and kind of learn whatever your movement is. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can either do a triple jump right here into a wall kick. 1, 2, oh. Set that up again. These stairs can be a little wonky. You can do that. Or you can do the wall kick that I just taught you guys. Now, right there, that is a little bit of a different technique. It's not simply jump, then dive. It's not A, then B. It's A plus B. Because you save a lot more speed and height and just momentum in general if you A plus B as opposed to A, then B, giving you that dive. You can still do it with that if your angle's good, but you're going to want to do that. So again, you can either do the triple jump or the wall kick right here. 1, 2, 3. Or you just worked on your wall kick from the last level. You can do that. And just like that, that skips us up to the boss right here. This is a pretty cool boss because whenever he is in a diagonal position, falling down or raising himself back up, you can actually, he has no hitbox. You can just ground pound right through him. So, ground pound. I dealt 1 damage. Ground pound as he's lifting up. Ground pound through him. Oh, whatever. Ground pound.
I didn't think that's how concrete works.
Yeah. So as it turns out, games from 1996 are awesome. We were early on in the 3D age, ladies and gentlemen. So you can just do that. And that's, again, very easy. I should preface, like, it's not that he doesn't have a hitbox. I did mispresent that. It's simply, like, it's somehow the collision when you're in a ground pound animation, and while he's lifting up, you phase through him like that. So I don't want to completely missay what it is. If you actually learn that boss well enough, you can manipulate his movement to where you're going to, when he blows up, the star will spawn right on top of you. It'll always spawn right here. But that's a minor optimization you can learn later. And once again, like I said, I'm going to actually just jump. Well, no, let's go ahead and do the ground pound animation. You saw right there that kind of zipped me to the ground as opposed to me jumping into it and lifting me up. Again, minor optimizations we're talking about. Big thing is learning right there in that star how to get up to the boss by doing that kick off the wall onto that little floating island, and then how to defeat him. So one thing that's nice about learning Super Mario 64 is that a lot of times your opening movement, once you learn it for 1 star, you already know it for the other star.
Mm-hmm.
So right here, we're doing the exact same thing. I'm going to line up my triple jump. And we're already up to the next star. So right here, if you want, if this wall kick's a little too hard for you, you can just simply walk your way around. But for the little more ambitious, you want to put just a little bit of time into it. Again, we have the wall kick, which breaks the platform. It's a little bit, it's a little more tricky to pull off. You kind of learn different angles, so don't feel bad if you don't get it right away. But just like that, you skip right from the first platform to the final raising platform. And after it raises up just a little bit, you can save a little bit of time, do a side flip into a dive right there, and get your next star. Let's get one more easy star, and then I'm going to show you guys a bit of a magic trick to get our last stuff in this area.
I like magic.
So I'm going to go ahead and get to the top of this tree. You can get there however you want. We got our owl friend right here. So we're going to grab onto the owl. You want to hold A to hold on to him. Now this is the one, it's in this little floating island in this cage. Controlling the owl, I'm not going to lie, is very finicky at the beginning. I kind of continually tap up and to the right, adjusting him over and over again. And you're going to see the island pass out from underneath me. As soon as this island is almost off screen, that's going to be my cue to drop. So right now it's at the bottom of my screen. Let's see if I can drop onto it. I did. Okay. Obviously, you want to aim to landing right on top of the star so you don't have that fall damage. But yeah, you want to look until it's about... I'm going to actually do that star just one more time, just go through it for you guys. So you can kind of get a visual cue for where it is. Also, standard, when you go into most paintings, you're going to want to do a long jump into it. Just because that's going to be the fastest way to get back into the painting. Alright, so again, look for the little cage that I'm going to drop into. I'm kind of tapping up and to the right, alternating there just a little bit, and right about now, we're going to drop. So you can still just see a little bit of the cage on the bottom of the screen. And that's kind of your cue for when to drop. That's something you can learn on your own there. Go ahead.
But like your position of where the cage is relatively, like from an X position standpoint, from like a horizontal position standpoint, like if it's too far to the left or too far to the right, isn't that going to affect whether you're going to be in the cage or not?
Absolutely. So that's why you kind of, I show you that visual cue there. I like to show people what my cues are, but ultimately those are not the be-all end-all cues that you should learn. Everyone's going to, maybe you'll tap a little differently on the control stick, kind of aiming it differently. You just kind of have to find for yourself what works for you. I highly recommend that.
Okay.
So here we are, the final star of Womp's Fortress. So normally, there is a star up on the top of this wall right here that has, there's a star in the wall right there. Now normally, what you could do is you can talk to this cannon right here, or this bomb right here. It'll open up the cannon, and then you can blast out the wall, and then you can go up there. However, I'm going to teach you cannonless. A lot of times in speedrunning, we like to, whenever we find a skip for something, we'll say, oh, take that and call it cannonless. Because now you're not using the cannon. You'll see a lot of that in speedrunning. So for years, this trick was very unfortunate. People would just kind of run at the wall, just fall off prey. No, okay, I didn't get it. So thankfully, a amazing contributor to speedrunning, a glitch hunter, a lot of people call him, by the name of Sockfolder. He actually came up with a setup. So how I told you guys at the beginning of this run, I've kind of touted all the way throughout it, your camera movement is just as important as Mario. I'm going to show you this crazy setup to where you can actually do it to where almost every single time this should work. I was screwing this up the other day when Darkman and I were going through it. Hopefully I don't do it here. So first of all, you're going to slowly tap up or down on the joystick. My goal is, you kind of see right here, down and to the right from Mario, on the platform you're standing on, there's like a brown colored brick. I want to hold down until Mario's going to grab on this ledge, and his right hand is like, imagine like the middle finger of his right hand is on the left side of this brick. So let me see if I can just line this up. So that's too far to the left. There are different spots where you can grab onto. Some people prefer to like get all the way up against the plank. I like to make sure Mario's right hand is about split on the brick. So I didn't quite get it. Let me try to line this up a little bit better. Okay. So what I normally do here is I'll actually just jump at it. But do know that you can just do it from walking down on that brick. You just have to move incredibly slowly. So I like to just jump on it. So I think that should work. So kind of look at where Mario's right hand is in relation. You see it's about split on that left side of the brick. So from here, all of these inputs are exact. Otherwise, the trick will not work. So the first thing you're going to do is press up, which puts Mario up here. And there's no rush to any of this until the very final inputs. If I press Z, he gets in his crouch animation. And then if I press A out of that, he does his super cool looking backflip. From here, I'm going to press C left twice. 1, 2. This is the part I kept forgetting the other day. You then want to punch. This is the most useful punch in the entire run. That is going to adjust your position. Now right here, as I said earlier when we were trying to get on the brick, you're going to hold down the control stick very lightly until you go into this grab animation. If you press too fast, then Mario just falls off the plank. This sounds stupid, but press C right, press C left,
You are now back at the... You would think the exact same position. You have somehow adjusted your pixels or something. I don't know how it works. It's magic. Here's the hardest part. This is not the hardest part, but the fastest part. You're going to tap up on the joystick, which we established back there will put Mario on top of the plank, and then I'm going to immediately hold down. It's going to look like I'm rolling the joystick because Mario's going to do this whole turnaround animation. But if you tap up and then hold down, he'll go into this automatically. If I did this correctly and I had it lined up, we should magically get the star in the wall. Let's see if it
All right,
works.
Spike. I believe.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was canonless.
All right, all done.
All right, so all of those inputs, you know, in the interest of time, we're going to move on. Look up tutorials for that. You can see all of the inputs you need to do. But again, get on the wall, pull yourself up, backflip, C left twice, punch, hold down until you are holding onto the plank, C right, C left, hold up or tap up, hold down, and you will have the star. How all that works, I have no idea. I'm not here to explain why it works. I'm just here to say it does. If that doesn't work for you, I'm going to show you one other strategy because some people might still say, oh, it's a little overly complicated for me. I want to show you this one other strategy. Let's say it just didn't work for you and you're down here. Oh man, you want to do a backup strategy, something that's maybe more consistent. We're going to actually just open up the cannon, which this is the intended way to do it. I'm going to show you a little speed strat to make it a little cooler because it's all about feeling cool, right guys?
That's right.
That's honestly most of why I do speedrunning, because it feels cool. So you got your crosshairs right here. You see that red coin up in the sky? I'm gonna put it in this position where the top crosshair and the left crosshair, it's almost like kind of right in the middle of that. So right here, you've got this platform, the rotating platform that's coming across. I'll just let it take one cycle around. It stops on the right side, like it's doing right here. And then it's going to stop there for a few seconds, rotate to the left side. When it's about a quarter of the way, a little bit after it starts moving, I shoot now. And it stops me right here, and I actually break the wall, and it puts me on that platform. So now instead of having to, like, use the cannon a second time, or have to slowly walk up there and then jump on the star, that's an OG strategy. That's like 2004 strategies right there. That's the way you can do it if you really don't want to learn canonless or it's a little too precise for you. But I promise, once again, anybody can do canonless.
It's pretty easy.
So, moving out of here, we have 6 of our power stars. We need 3 from this area I'm going to grab right now. We got Cool Mountain.
So, you know, I'm looking through, you have obviously a set route, but, you know, if somebody felt like some of the stars you're getting maybe too hard, are there like other stars that they could potentially get that might be maybe a little bit easier for them or maybe cost a little bit of time?
Oh, absolutely. At the end of the day, there's no real restriction. Here in the lobby, you're going to want to collect at least 8 power stars because that's going to get you into the first Bowser level. I would not recommend going into Jolly Roger Bay in here, although there are some pretty easy stars starting out. You've also got up here, you can go through here to get to the Princess Secret Slide, where you can also learn a really quick way to like jump off the slide, save like 4 or 5 seconds. Those are a little slower, not because of the stars themselves, just because of the animation having to open another door. We're trying to like consolidate how many times we go into other courses. Just to cut down that transition time. But yeah, absolutely. If there are any of these stars you're just like, man, I cannot do this, don't feel bad to just pick out other stars and say, I'm going to do these instead. All right, so here we are in Cool Mountain. First off, this is actually the last star I'm going to do first. We're just going to jump off the mountain and then catch the bottom platform. So we got one text box right here. I like to do a little double jump here, but moving forward right from where Mario's facing, we're going to come down here, and then you can see underneath this platform, this snowy platform, I'm going to start trying to angle in underneath that, so you kind of fall down, and then push up and to the right to get up there. You can press C left once, if you want to see a little bit better. And you saw right there at the end, right before I landed, I threw in a kick, which I told you earlier will reset your fall velocity, and you won't take fall damage off of that.
That was not developer intended.
At all. Normally they want you to go all the way around like these side paths, bounce off of a bunch of things. No, we just drop down to the end. So here, you can either do a side flip up there, you can also do a wall kick to get up there. And then right here, right above us is the star. You can either do a couple of wall kicks, a series of 3 wall kicks to get up here, which can be a little finicky. Not finicky, I mean, it's consistent, but a little harder to do. If you want to come up just a little higher off the wall, you can also just do that. Do 1 wall kick and then just hold forward, and you'll grab that ledge and pull yourself up, and you are already at this 7th star.
Hey, you did a lot better than the last time.
Yeah, I know. That was a little rough kicking off that wall. I was like, I need to figure out another strategy. I love that we went through this because Darkman can just give me crap on everything.
So we had a question from, and I apologize if I'm getting your name wrong, because I'm probably going to butcher it. Berserker, I'm going to go with that. What's a good game to start with speedrunning? And Tapa kind of answered this in chat. Honestly, it's something you enjoy playing, that you wouldn't mind playing again and again, and, you know, just kind of going through it. Just like for me, like I started speedrunning Mega Man games because I really enjoyed playing Mega Man games as a kid. So chances are, if you enjoyed the game as a kid or enjoyed playing the game a lot, you're going to enjoy the speedrun.
Yeah, it's different for everybody. I mean, a couple of the runs I just showed you there, a couple of the tricks. Donkey Kong Country 2, Mega Man 2, those were not games from my childhood. I played them later on, like once I was in the speedrunning community, and I said, these speedruns look really, really cool. You just see these tricks look really satisfying, like you might see here in Mario 64. Maybe it's a childhood game that you absolutely loved. Make sure it is something that you are okay with sinking potentially hundreds of hours into. Because you're going to learn a lot about your speedrun. You're going to learn all the cool things. You're also going to learn all the crappy things about your speedrun. So make sure it's something you're okay with doing a lot. Alright, so next time I'm going to show you guys how to get this baby penguin to its mom. If you do a triple jump right there, you can get cleanly up there. Either way, it doesn't matter. Just make sure you get up here. Hardest part of the star genuinely is catching that baby penguin. This guy loves to juke you. So there are 2 different strategies you can use. The more advanced strategy, which is, I promise you, not that hard to do, I'm going to make my way over to this corner, and I'm going to jump down and slide on this wall. Once I start sliding on the wall, I am never going to touch the jump button or anything again until I get to the baby mom, or until I get to the baby's mother. It's all joystick movement. So I'm first going to just show it in flow, what it looks like. So we're going to slide down here, and then going to aim for this right here, aim for just right of that wall. Oh no, we're losing the baby. That's fine. I was lining that up. Yeah.
How could you?
So, here's another thing about speedrunning. You can fail it, but that's okay, because we're just going to do it again. We're just going to go back and show you guys again. So, triple jump, we're not going to wall kick. Whatever. These are not the important things. You see, you can kind of catch the snow right there. So you want to stay just a little bit right of the wall right there. The reason why I couldn't go, like, super far to the right is because there's actually wind right here that'll catch you over this void. And that will cause you to drop the baby penguin, and then you'd have to reset anyway. So you do want to stay, like, kind of more in this area, so a little closer to the wall. That's why I failed it. But if you keep that going, you'll carry your momentum all the way over to the mother penguin right here. You could also choose to land on the ground underneath. Or land on the ground up there and then reset off that slide. Again, it looks like you might be like jumping off of that to get that boost of speed. No, you're just holding the joystick in the correct direction, and Mario will naturally have a ton of speed and be able to go that way. I'm going to show you one alternate route right here if you want to do something maybe a little less scary. I finally did the triple jump. I'm so proud of myself. We're instead going to go this way. And over there, you can see that gate that's kind of there on that left side of the screen. The opening just to the left of there, I'm just going to slide off of that. Oops. And then bada bing, bada boom. Took a little bit of fall damage, but that's okay, because we still, in a much more dangerous way, brought the baby penguin all the way to the mother. I'm glad she's still cool with giving you the star right there. And again, kind of just showing off right there how jumping into a star gives you that little lift animation as opposed to ground pounding it from the bottom. So we're going to grab one more power star here. This will be the first power star that you cut later on if you want to, you know, alternate it for a different star later on. I like to do the red coin star in Bowser in the Dark World. but that is definitely one of the more advanced stars. So as I entered here, I pressed R. Once again, that puts you into Mario Cam, which puts you right behind Mario's camera position. I'm going to do long jump forward and then hold up and right, giving me enough speed to hopefully clear myself all the way to the bottom of this slide. Long jump, hold up and right, should give me enough speed. I'm going to go press R again, which put me back into the Lakitu camera, giving me a little bit easier perspective. And then I dove right before I hit the slide. If you don't dive, you're going to take a ton of fall damage and possibly even just straight up die from not having control of Mario. You're going to do a little bit of movement from behind right here. Make your way down the slide. You can do the Michael Jackson if you want. You don't have to worry about that. That's a little minor movement optimization. Press C right twice while you don't have control of Mario, while the camera's adjusting, and that will line up to where you can see the star, making it a lot less scary to just long jump at the star and possibly miss it and jump off the edge.
But Spike, it's all about the swag.
Yes. But in that situation, as a big old baby like I am, it's all about the Michael Jackson. Do the moonwalk. You got to learn that. You can learn from somebody else, though.
So we had a question in chat. I kind of answered the question, but I want to kind of talk about that since I've seen it asked a few times. I do a lot of theory crafting in World of Warcraft. Obviously, for those who live under a rock and don't know what World of Warcraft is, it's an MMO, an MMORPG. Are there anything similar to speedrunning? I understand there's routing and tasking, but I'm unfamiliar with either. So actually, this is something that's near and dear to my heart because I actually enjoy playing MMOs a lot. They're actually not too dissimilar at all. Like when you're trying to theory crafting is when you're trying to you're trying to look at a problem that is, okay, I need to do this much damage. I want to do as much damage as possible. So how do I do that? So I got to look at through all of the tools that I have in my belt and see what can I do in order to optimize my damage. So it's a lot like a route. You're creating a route. You have all of the obstacles in front of you and you're saying, okay, I have all these problems in front of me, and I have these tools at my disposal. So if I do this at this point, and this at that point, and that at this point, that's going to give me the best possible output. So if you're theory crafting in a game like MMO, you're essentially speedrunning. That's basically speedrunning right there. It's just in a different format.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a lot of good ways. I know a lot of people who come over from the World of Warcraft community, StarCraft communities. I've known people who come over from FGC, the fighting game community, and they take to speedrunning really well because it's a lot of that same, not just skill set, but mindset you have to have going into it.
Yep.
So with that, go ahead and leave Cool Mountain however you want to. You'll kind of learn your movement here. I like to do a kick to clear that wall into a side flip, and you're right up here on your first of the 3 Bowser stages. You need at least 8 power stars, so you will have to pick out at least 8 from this first area, but there's plenty of fast ones in the lobby right there to get in here. Now here's again, I like to personally, instead of doing that slide star back there, I'll do the red coin star here. But instead, we're just going to, that honestly is pretty advanced. So we're just instead going to go across this level. Most of it, just make your way across here. You can, if you want, just go across. But I think a pretty cool little technique that I'm going to be using a couple of times, especially throughout the Bowser stages. Bowser stages, almost imagine more, they're like the obstacle course levels, where they're really challenging your platforming. One technique you're going to use here is that if I try to do a triple jump, 1, 2, on, then your second jump won't actually register. It'll just eat it and turn it into a single jump again on slopes. However, the third jump of a triple jump bypasses that. So I'll get to here, I'll do a triple jump into a wall kick. 1, 2, 3. Maybe line that up a little bit closer. 1, 2, 3. Into a wall kick, and you have that nice, smooth little piece of movement. It's like what I was talking about earlier, how there's a lot of micro routing involved. Where by doing that, that cut out a lot of other little areas that you need to go through. That's sometimes the most fun part about speedrunning, is just optimizing your movement and finding little tricks that you can do, whether they're the most optimal things or not. So moving your way through here, obviously my cycles are quite different. We talk about cycles all the time. A lot of these enemies and these platforms are based on universal cycles, camera cycles. So you'll have to make adjustments as you go if you went slower in earlier part of the stages. So you're going to get up to here. You're going to long jump your way over to this area. Then you're going to want to use this plank right here. I generally don't use this because I go the red coin route, but it is what it is. Get on these tippy platforms. You want to tip this one up just a little bit, and you can get up here. So once again, same concept there with the triple jumps. I'm going to make sure that my first 2 jumps are on flat ground, and the third one is off this slope. So 1, 2, 3, up. So I mistimed my triple jump there just a little bit. Not a big deal. We can just reset up here. You can obviously just use the button right here if you want. And you can still kind of angle it to where that's a little bit better for you, where you don't get stuck often. But let me try to do that triple jump movement one more time, because there's one extra little piece to it I want you guys to understand. So 1, 2, 3. And then a lot of times you just hold forward there, that triple jump won't quite give you the height needed to get over it, and you'll slide back down. So you can throw in effectively a 4th jump, it's just a little single jump, and then you can jump and then dive your way past it, or kick, either way. The difference, by the way, between whether B is a dive or a kick is simply how much speed you have. If you haven't built up enough momentum, then you'll do a punch, or if you're in the air, you'll do a kick. So just a little something to keep in mind. Here we are at the first Bowser fight, and everyone, if you've played Mario 64 and ever watched this is a lot of times the hardest parts to it, is throwing Bowser. Honestly, you just kind of get a feel for it, but there are a couple of things I can tell you. One thing that's a cool little trick that I actually never knew about. So you're rotating the joystick here. If you get to top speed and then you simply hold up on the joystick like I'm doing right now, it keeps Bowser at that top speed. So if when starting off, if you just want to do that, so now you don't have to worry about rotating the joystick and then also pressing B at the right time to throw it, then you can do this and kind of remove that part of the thinking process out of it. However, I don't like to do that. I'm going to let him stop. I like to do 2 rotations. So I'm going to personally err on the side of throwing him early. If I throw him early, he's not going to go as far. He's not going to have as much speed. And I can simply come up and re-grab the tail. And then I can get a very easy rotation into that first hit. Or the only hit, rather, of this boss. If you time it right, obviously you'll get it right there. I like to go 2 rotations. I think top players can do it in 1, but starting off, I would just worry about 2 rotations. Take extra ones if you need to. Find what's comfortable for you. It's actually a relatively tight frame window to get Bowser throws. That's, even after running this game for years, even the top players like Cheese and Puncation and them, they even still have troubles with Bowser throws.
I think most people here by now have seen a fail or 2.
Yeah. So certainly do not beat yourself up if, oh no, I'm missing Bowser throws all over the places. Keep that in mind, though, that once again, and we're simply going down to the basement here while I'm talking about this, keep that in mind that if you're gonna fail the first 2, where you only have to get a single throw, make sure if you're gonna press them incorrectly, press them a little bit early, because they'll usually just put him just to the right of the bomb. And then you can readjust it. Alright, so here we are in the basement. A lot of fast stars in the basement as well. You might wonder, like, why is this category 16 stars? Well, I need to get to 15 stars in order to make Mips the bunny spawn. So I need to get 6 more stars here in the basement. Starting here with Shifting Sandland. There is an advanced strat here where you can defeat the bird. And get the star really quickly. However, we're just going to do the same movement for both of these stars. So the first thing you're going to want to do here is, once again, that triple jump movement that I talked about, where you want the first 2 to be on flat ground. I'm going to aim for, see this kind of dark spot on the ground right here, kind of on the ground and going up the slope. Yeah, all that right there that I just slid down. I'm going to aim for the flat part of the ground right there, right up against the wall for the second jump. 1, 2, 3, and then dive into that. And we are already all the way over here, and then if I do another triple jump, boom, I just got a star. So that removed all the movement they kind of want you to do of like going around that gate, going all the way around the level, or going and getting the shell even.
That was fast.
Yeah, that's a really, really fast star that you can grab. Now I'm going to go over there again. If you feel confident, you can do that exact same movement to get over again and go get the bird. However, you can also come over here, set up another triple jump into a dive, and you can simply get this shell. Ride it across, it won't sink in any of the quicksand. You can use it to get that star right there. You can also use it to come over here. And then simply by pressing Z, you'll break the shell and you get up here. And what's up, dude? So the reason why I come over here is because consistently the bird's going to, at the beginning of the level, move over there on the other side of the pyramid and then come over here for like, it's like 2 or 3 circles. By simply jumping up and kicking, you'll hit his hitbox as he floats over and you get access to this very quick star. Oh. And you've already got 11 power stars. In the interest of time, we'll keep moving forward. But as you can see, you have even a couple of options right there for different strategies you can use. The best speedruns out there always have a lot of options for people to get into. So that's it for Shifting Sandland. We're going to head over here to Lethal Lava Land, where we only have 1 power star we're going to get. It's really self-explanatory. You do press C right 1 time when entering. Long jump, we're simply going to take a damage boost off the lava right there, and then a long jump again. We're going to get these 8 red coins. You can optimize it a little bit by diving into the coins. You can also just run through them. It only saves a little bit of time to do the dives. And you've already got your 12 star. You got to see a theme. What's nice about 16 star. You get to learn a lot of the basics of Mario's movement. You get to learn a lot of cool skips and glitches. But it's also just, you know, they're early stars in the levels. Here we are going into our final major level to fill out our 15 stars. We're going to talk to Toad right here. He's going to give us a free one. Now, what's important here is you want to make sure you get this star now, as opposed to after grabbing the 2 others we're going to grab in Hazy Maze Cave right here. Because if you grab him 15th, Mips the Bunny will not spawn. You'll have to go into a level and exit again, and then it will actually load him. So just make sure you go ahead and get him first. Alright, so entering here, we're going to have the same movement once again for both of these stars. I'm going to press C right once. This is one of the few instances where I don't press C down when I enter a level. Naturally, the camera's just going to be better aligned if you just leave it in C up. So C right once, and then I'm going to do long jump, hold back, long jump. You have to sandbag those first 2 long jumps a little bit. Otherwise, if you hold completely forward, the second long jump will go into that pit back there and you'll die. So, moving through here, I'm going to hold A as I transition through this door. And if I hold A and then I press B as soon as I have control of Mario, he'll do a kick, which will give me a little more acceleration. And then from there, I am literally just going to long jump, hold down Z, and press A in rhythm all the way to the wall. So hold A, go through the door, press B for the kick, and then long jump. Long jump, long jump, long jump, long jump, long jump. You made it to the wall. Important to note, these rocks, they're actually RNG, how they fall down. It's randomly determined how they'll come. They might hug up against this left wall we're up against. If that happens, you simply have to adjust to it, maybe, you know, dodge around it. It sucks when it happens. It's kind of rare, but you might have to move around the rocks or simply take damage and then move around it. So here we are at this wall. Wall kick, and then dive out of it. You got your 14th star. Let's grab 1 more regular star here, and then we can spawn this. We're going to have the same movement going into here. We're going to start off C right. C right, don't press C down. Long jump, hold back a little bit. Long jump again. A lot of times I'll just kind of release the stick going into that second long jump. We're instead going to come over here, just get rid of that enemy I like to do. And then you see this lantern that's right above Mario? I'm going to get just to the left of it. And that's where I'm going to line up this wall kick right here. To get up to this platform, kind of adjust your camera a little bit, and then a long jump over to this platform right here. There's your 15th star. Again, a lot of the little movement things, you'll kind of figure out yourself what works and doesn't work for you. But there's your 15 stars. Now, we need to go get Mips. I like to long jump over that. You can walk around it, whatever you want to do. So Mips right now, imagine that he is on the other side of the wall from me right now. I want to push him to the left, so I'm actually going to ride along this wall to the right. And that's going to push him that way. He's going to react to wherever you are. Now you can, if you're fast enough, you can catch him right around here optimally. But instead, we're just going to run him down to this corner. And by cornering him either here or sending him over to Shifting Sandland, that desert world we went to first, it'll corner him. And then you can sort of just do this, then dive right into him, and he'll run right into you. The cue I look for on the wall is that flame, the torch that's on the wall. And I make sure I'm kind of right of it as I dive into it. Darkman, you were about to say?
Yeah, you know, congrats, you got the bunny. It's the hardest part of the speedrun.
Oh, thank you so much. It's actually, catching that bunny will frustrate people a lot. That's why I recommend just corner him here. This is really close to the door you want to get him to. Or in Shifting Sandland if he goes the other way. Either way, just you'll run away from him and then dive into him. So I shouldn't have got that star. It's not a big deal unless I lose MIPS, at which point I'll load up a save. It'll be fine. The only reason why you don't... I'm actually going to not save just in case. The only reason why you don't want to do that is because if you lose MIPS somehow, now he will actually despawn and you won't be able to gain access back to him until you get to 50 stars. We don't want that. Okay, so we're going to bring MIPS over here. He's going to stay just sitting there until you leave the room, and then he'll despawn. So, look at right now Mario and MIPS. What's consistent, both of them have shadows. Look up here at the wall. You can still see Mario and a little bit of MIPS' shadow. I'm going to move across this wall. Alright, did you see that? MIPS' shadow has a little spot right there where his shadow goes away. I'm going to get up against this door. Just go ahead and start at the knob and start holding up and to the right. As soon as you get a feel for when MIPS' shadow goes away, you're going to press Z. So let's see if I can time this right. Nope. Okay, so that's fine. Better to be a little bit early because you just reset up for it. That might have been a little late. By holding Z, Mario gets in this like baby crawl animation, and you can move around while you're clipped in the door. So let's go ahead and lift up. I'm going to face MIPS. All right, so I was still able to catch him.
Nice.
Now, what you're going to do here to try to get out of this, you're simply going to hold down and jump. By holding down and jumping, you're out of here. Now, just to put him down just for a second, let's say you had messed it up and you were in a position where you were a little too far away from MIPS and you couldn't punch him and pick him back up. It's no big deal. You're just going to, he'll stay on that other side of the door. You'll go through the door. You'll be able to pick him up, and then you'll be able to reset it up. That usually means you dropped him too late. So you'll kind of want to time it to where just as you're about to, as his shadow's about to go away, that's when you press Z, which automatically drops him and puts you into that crawl animation. Little thing to note right here is that you can't do too many crazy, you can't do like long jumps or dives or anything. You're going to want to jump to just get rid of like the friction on the ground and give yourself some acceleration while you're carrying MIPS. Alright, so we have this other door. This is the 30-star door. You need 30 stars, you need 14 more. Screw that.
Oh.
Here's MIPS. We're going to do the same thing. Walk up until his shadow goes away, and press Z, and you are through the wall, ladies and gentlemen. You are through the door, and we're moving on to the next part of the game.
That, ladies and gentlemen, was not developer intended.
Not at all. And it is another one. I mean, I guess that's the theme. I sound like a broken record. Anybody can learn those. That second one's actually a lot easier, because you don't have to worry about any way of having to like grab MIPS and pull them through with you. Once you're through and past that door, you're done with MIPS. You can just move on. So I'm actually going to make this a 17-star run. We're going to go for world record in the 17-star category, because I accidentally grabbed that star earlier from MIPS. But yeah, overall you want to avoid grabbing that. Alright, so to note right here, some people admittingly will have a lot of trouble dealing with this submarine. You can either just come over here and do the developer intended way, and step on this switch, and you're up on the submarine. Otherwise, though, what you're going to want to do, a little more advanced strat, not the top strat. Some people go on the front side of the submarine. We're not doing that. We're going to get up here on this fin, and then there are a couple ways you can do this. You can either do a triple jump like this. Again, same concept as I was saying earlier. You can also just do it with a double jump and kind of barely get up there. You make that a little easier than what I was showing. Or you can do a side flip. jump into another dive. Any of those will work for you. And here we are. Go for that 17-star world record, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, dude. And with that, the only reason why we had to get that star is just to move that course. That is the final power star we'll be collecting in the run. Here we go into Bowser in the Fire Sea. Again, a lot of this little movement I'm just going to kind of go through. Find out whatever works for you. I like to use those platforms on the side. You can run through this heart right here, which will refill your health. I like to run through it myself. Let me get this goob up. As I'm jumping into there, because that'll refill your health even as you are going in and taking damage. That lava boost will put you up here. And then you can get up on this pole. And then right here, you can either just ride this platform up, this little elevator, or you can do some wall kicks right there. Some little fancy wall kicks, save a little bit of time. So coming up here, you're going to get on top of this thing. And instead of like slowly grabbing onto this stuff and then going across the monkey bars, we're simply going to either you can slide down this thing from the top, or you can do a side flip to kind of back it up. Either way, whatever works for you. All right. So a lot of this level, when you get into actually speedrunning it, where you kind of determine whether you're having a good time or not like fun, but whether or not the time in the level is good, is this kind of accordion platform right here. You'll learn that it'll be on a universal cycle throughout the level, and you'll want to catch like earlier cycles of it. Yeah, either way, you're going to get up here. Advanced strategies, you will actually, you see that railing on the left side, you can actually long jump all the way across that. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend that when you're starting out. Just simply get across here. If you take some damage, it's not a big deal. Take your time a little bit there and make sure to get this heart to refill your health, because you're going to do a double damage boost right here. Long jump into 1 and 2, and then land yourself up right there. Which you can see, because you went through the heart, that refilled my health as I was going. And just like that, we're already here at Bowser. A lot of the Bowser movement, you'll kind of figure out as you go, you'll gradually. I recommend practicing those a lot, because they're just fun stages to do fast. Again, they are like obstacle courses. This is the most punishing Bowser in terms of if you miss a throw, if you throw him off, he'll jump back up and make the platform tip like this again. But you're going to want to position yourself right on top of his tail. As soon as the platform starts moving, press B to punch his tail. And you'll have this immediate grab of him. You're going to want to favor whatever bomb is closest to you. So in this case, it's this platform back here, or it's this bomb back here. I'm going to do 2 more spins. So I missed it and had a little bit too much speed on it.
Ooh.
So when you do that, again, just readjust yourself. Again, you can get right back here and reset it up. But again, what's nice about that, if I'd only done 2 rotations like I normally do there, it was a little off because I was explaining it, that will make him not fall off the platform. It'll just put him just to the right of it. So that's a good technique, again, if you want to do the Bowser throws, but when you're starting off, favor on the side of throwing early, because that'll put him right there, and try to only do 2 spins. So we've got 2 keys. We're sitting here with 16 stars. We're going to jump back in here, a little optimization. You can just walk up to the lobby, but instead if you go into any level, in this instance, Bowser in the Fire Sea, stand still and then pause. You can exit course, and it will automatically always warp you up here to the lobby. Go up the stairs, put in this key, and we're going to make our way straight up to the final level. A little minor trick you can do right here that's cool. Double jump, clips right through that little part of the wall, and then hold up and right, and you can go to the door. Saves a few seconds, not a big deal. Alright, so again, this door up here, same as the 30-star door, it's trying to rain on our parade, saying, oh, you need 50 power stars. Once again, screw that. We are instead going to do a trick, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is the hardest part of the entire run.
Oh, yeah.
These are called BLJs, or backwards long jumps. So again, look at my long jumps. We're doing these long jumps, we're getting a lot of distance off of them. I'm holding forward though. Let me just do it and then not, and then hold back. as you can see, you have a lot of control of Mario's long jump in the air, like a lot of mid-air control. Kind of find whatever camera works for you here. I actually like it in Mario Cam and then press C down. Whatever works for you here. You're going to want a good distance on these stairs. And what you're going to do, and bear with me if this might take me a while, this is definitely a hard trick, is you're going to long jump forward, and then you're actually going to hold up on the joystick. Still hold down Z so you're in that long jump animation. And then it's going to be different for everybody. I personally mash A. So let me see if I can just kind of show you the basis of what we're doing. And we're going to get that animation. So what you're looking for here is you're effectively kind of like clipping into the ground almost. For some people, this is a rhythmic mash that you're looking for. For other people, it's straight up just mash as hard as you can. I mash as hard as I can because I'm not a great masher, but at home, just kind of figure out whatever technique works out for you. So let's see how long this takes me. So you're trying to listen for those yahoos. This might work.
Ooh. I believe. I'm believing less.
Yeah, I think that didn't quite work. That was like almost it.
Yeah, this is definitely the hardest part of the run. So, trying. It's just it's a bit finicky, you know. Sometimes you get it really fast, and sometimes it just takes a while. Like,
all right, there we go.
Is that it? Okay,
yeah.
Excellent.
So with that, I gained enough speed to where I almost like clipped into the ground. A lot of times you'll kind of get a feel right there for if you get that yahoo kind of right at the top, like the last thing you were doing. Just keep trying there at the door, and usually in most cases you'll be able to clip through. So that was the 50-star door right there. We just went all the way through it. I'm not gonna go back and show you because it might be 5 minutes till I get it again. That is definitely, I'll let you guys know, there are a lot of things we call run killers when you do speed runs. That is definitely a run killing trick in 16-star. Sometimes you'll do it there and you'll get it first try. Sometimes it'll take you minutes. It's something you have to work out a lot. You'll find your rhythm for it, and eventually you should get somewhat consistent at it. So you'll kind of find whatever your movement is up here. Thankfully, they just let us through this door. I'm glad the devs just let us through this door because we have nothing to gain height there. So we're gonna go into C. I'm gonna be in the regular camera view here. We're gonna do one more backwards long jump. So normally, yeah, these stairs are endless. However, if we do another backwards long jump...
The music.
I'm sorry in advance.
This is nice because the stairs keep going, so you just keep going until you get it. Eventually. Maybe.
There we go.
Alright.
So, one thing I did right there is I made sure I was on the right side of the wall. The left side sometimes will warp you into wet dry world. Don't go up the left side. If you have one takeaway, go up the right side of those stairs, because you'll just end up like that. So yeah, as Darkman said right there, the reason why this one's a lot easier is because you have infinite stairs to work with. You don't have to continually reset yourself up. Yeah, with that, we're heading into the final level, the final obstacle course. Again, I'm not going to go over the movement too much outside of a few situations. I like to long jump across these, go over all that. Cool little trick you can do right here. You can do a triple jump. And one thing that's just in general important about your movement is that out of a triple jump, you can either delay your dive or 1, 2, 3. You can do an instant dive just by pressing A and B at the same time. So that's how you can make tricks like that come out more consistently. But doesn't matter, it saves like a second just to go around. So just do that. Here is a very simple skip that everybody should go for. You might have gone for this when you first played the video game. Right there, ladies and gentlemen. You just skipped over that whole section over there. Just do a side flip.
I legit don't even know what's over there.
Yeah, I had to go there once because I was doing one-handed. Because I did this one-handed once. I don't recommend that, by the way. And I couldn't do a side flip. Side flips are really hard one-handed. We're gonna do the same triple jump method here, where we make sure only the third jump is actually on the slope. Then you do a jump and a dive out of that. We can climb up all that, or you can just simply turn around, whee, long jump, and you skip over that whole section as well. There are some advanced strats you can go for right here. One way you can set it up, save yourself a little bit of time. Go ahead and just ride this over. 1, 2, triple jump. And you can get up to this pole. For everyone who doesn't want to, one thing you can do right here, kind of get a little distance away and then backflip into it, and you can climb up, and that puts you here. However, just to show off what the rest of that level looks like, glad I didn't fall off right there. It's just come over here instead and just ride up this pole. I'm not gonna lie, I played some Mario Odyssey, so every time I get on these poles, I think I want to shake to climb faster, but that's fine. Shout out to motion controls. Simply
Shake,
go over
shake.
here, make sure you line it up. You shouts to mischief makers. Another great speed game, by the way. Make your way up here. We're going to get to these rotating platforms. Right here, you can either just go off that straight platform, or you can line up. Oh, Goomba! Okay.
Oh,
So
no. Oh!
All right. One thing I actually do recommend you guys understand is that there's a 1-up right there. That will respawn every time you come out here. So, yeah, remember that, because this is another hardest part of the run, is the final thing you do is throwing Bowser 3 times right now. We're not going to be able to use the same, like, kind of inch him up method like we did with the first 2 throws on the final throw. So you're going to have to be a little decent at throwing Bowser. So I would recommend spending just like an hour or 2 once. Just sit down and throw Bowser a lot. Jump off the stage, which you'll die and lose a life, but it'll put you right back out there at the start. You can get the same 1-up that was sitting right there and jump back in and do it again. So you just have infinite tries. So there's not much else to teach you guys. The biggest thing that I probably haven't talked about too much is that you always want to aim Bowser towards the closest bombs. That means you just have to rotate him the least. So I try to go for this one. Alright, so I missed a throw right there. Again, Bowser throws are hard. They just are what they are. And just after a while, you'll get more consistent with them. Also, I rotate them a few too many times there. But trying to get a rhythm for like how often you do everything. A little late there. You really want, I'm going to not talk just so I can like focus on it, but you want to focus on lining Bowser up with the bomb in the background. Alright, so there's the second hit. And I like to long jump out of the way and then dive into him. Not really poorly like I did there, but whatever. Final hit. That might hit? Nope. Yeah, I'm going late on like every hit.
The struggle.
One more. And there's the one. Alright. So as you can see, 3 for 6, ladies and gentlemen. That's a fair game in school. But yeah, that's, again, the biggest thing I can recommend. Find the bombs that are closest to you every time you throw them, depending on where you are. Also, dot time, or dot done, or the end of where you end your timer will be as soon as you touch that star.
All right.
But yeah, do that, and then from there, just practice it a lot. Fall off the stage after you throw them 3 times, get the 1-up, do it over and over again. And that is Super Mario 64. I promise any of you can do that in under 30 minutes when you string it all together. So.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Spike, for the tutorial and the glitches, and also accompanying me for the panel. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Do you have any final thoughts?
I love this hobby. I absolutely love it. I found speedrunning really when I was a kid. I remember sitting at home playing through like Mega Man X and Donkey Kong Country as a kid, and just looking at the clock over the TV and just saying, like, oh, I beat it in 45 minutes. I always thought it was really cool to take speedrunning, where you take a single player experience where the game might not have a lot of replay value, honestly, on top of it, and make it this multiplayer competitive game experience where I have, honestly, an infinite amount of replay value to it. I'm always trying to get better in those games. Up to 2004 when I found Speed Demos Archive and I found this community of people who are weird like me and want to get into the same things. We love just going past these games. I think a lot of it is just a love for these different video games that we get into. I highly recommend if you guys have any interest. It's such an accessible hobby. We are for the most part, a very friendly community who will welcome you with open arms. So yeah, I'm glad we got to do this. And I hope, GDQs, like I said, or at the beginning of the broadcast, they're great because they've raised millions, literally millions of dollars for charities over the years. But they've also gotten hundreds, even thousands of people, I would say, into speedrunning. People who never knew about it beforehand. So I hope this is one more inspiration for those of you teetering on the fence about it to get into it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, that was perfectly said. I just want to say I love this community. The speedrunning community is amazing, and really, honestly, if you want to get into speedrunning, don't be shy. Like it's cool. Ask us. You ask me. Like you want to tweet at me. I'm at the Darkman78 with an A, not an E. If you want to tweet at me, you want to tweet at Spike.
Yes,
go for
absolutely.
it.
Yep.
If you have questions, we'll be happy to answer them. If you have any thoughts, or if you're not sure what to do, how to get into it, just feel free to ask us or ask somebody else. Ask a friend. Ask somebody that you watch streaming. It's not a problem. We'll be happy to help you. So that is our presentation on speedrunning. Hopefully this kind of gets you an idea of how to get involved, but obviously it doesn't cover everything, but at least gives you a start. So maybe where to go from here on in. So that is going to do it for us. Once again, I am Darkman78, and with me here is Spikevegeta. So this was a speedrunning 101 panel. So without further ado, our rate target. So at the end of a stream, we're going to go ahead and rate somebody. We're going to rate Tones Ballones. He was the GDQ Splatoon 2 runner. He's actually doing Super Mario Odyssey speedruns right now. So why don't you go ahead, give him a watch, cheer him on. Hey, see how he does with the moon skip, see if he can land that first try. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching. And until next time, take care.
Love y'all.